Chapter 48:20. Lin Feng had seen many foreign creatures before, but this was the first time he had seen such a foreign creature. The aura of this foreign creature was extremely terrifying. The creature that had been imprisoned here before should be this foreign creature in front of him. However, the 99 dragon energy chains that bound him had already broken. It's the king of the foreign creatures. Immeasurable Taoist's expression became ugly. The creatures of the other side were already this terrifying, let alone the king of the foreign creatures. Of the three people who were fighting against the king of creatures, Lin Feng only recognized Mr. Zhu. Lin Feng did not recognize the other two elders, and this was the first time he had seen them. Of the two elders, one was thin and had an immortal-like appearance. The other was fat, with white hair and a ruddy complexion. These two should be the other two of the three ancestors of the Confucian sect. They were also experts that had existed since the archaic era. Their cultivation could be said to be unfathomable. Right now, these three great experts had surrounded the foreign creature, but they did not immediately make a move. It was clear that they were somewhat apprehensive. Isn't this the little ant that secretly came here before? This one likes Fatso the most, because Fatso has a lot of meat. The foreign creature licked his scarlet tongue, and then let out a series of sinister and terrifying laughter. The person that the foreign creature was talking about was naturally Immeasurable Taoist. Immeasurable Taoist shrunk his neck, and then cursed, "This old Taoist hates you foreign creatures the most. Immeasurable, your whole family is full of immortals. Later, this old Taoist will beat you until you kneel and beg for mercy." Immeasurable Taoist was also someone who cared a lot about face. There were many fat people. However, often, fat people did not like others calling them fatso. It was because this title represented the meaning of ridicule and ridicule. Immeasurable Taoist naturally did not like others calling him fatso either. This angered Immeasurable Taoist. Immeasurable Taoist naturally would not give the foreign creature king any face. The foreign creature king sneered and said, "Really, all kinds of cats and dogs dare to jump in front of this one. This one will eat you damned fatso later." As soon as he finished speaking, a blood-colored moon appeared within the foreign king's body. The blood-red moon exuded an incomparably demonic aura. When he saw the blood-red moon, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Lin Feng suddenly thought of some death zones. Sometimes blood-colored moons would appear. When those blood-colored moons appeared, nothing good would happen. Right now, what this foreign creature king brought out was actually also a blood moon. Only, he didn't know if this blood moon had any connection with the blood moon that rose from the land of death. Lin Feng carefully sensed the blood moon, wanting to see if it was a magical treasure. However, he felt that it didn't seem like a Dharma treasure. Of course, it could also be a magic treasure. After all, the creatures in the other universe were creatures from another universe. It was normal for the magic treasures refined by the creatures in their universe to be different from the magic treasures refined by the creatures in this universe. Activate the ancient weapon. At this time, the old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion spoke in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, Master Zhu brought out a supreme treasure. That supreme treasure was an ancient diagram. The diagram of a phoenix was drawn on the ancient diagram, Sky Phoenix Cleansing Diagram. It turned out to be this ancient weapon. Previously, Muyasi had obtained a forbidden weapon that was an imitation of the Sky Phoenix Cleansing Diagram from Master Zhu. Now Lin Feng saw the real Sky Phoenix Cleansing Diagram. It was definitely an extremely heaven-defying supreme treasure. It was the cornerstone treasure of the Confucian school. The three ancestors of the Confucian school urged the Sky Phoenix cleansing diagram to attack the foreign creature. The Sky Phoenix cleansing diagram turned into a fire phoenix in midair. The fire phoenix, on the other hand, let out an incomparably loud cry. The phoenix's wings flapped slightly. In an instant, raging flames burned heaven and earth. The Confucian school has really declined. It doesn't even have a saint now. Think about how powerful Confucius and Meng were in the past. Back then, they joined forces to suppress this seat, but unfortunately, they didn't have the means to kill me. They wanted to use the power of the dragon veins to suppress me, and then slowly grind me to death, but they failed. Now, this seat has come into being. I will slaughter all of the Confucian school. The foreign king let out a sinister voice. As soon as his voice fell, the blood-colored moon flew out. The blood-colored moon collided with the fire phoenix formed by the ancient weapon Sky Phoenix cleansing diagram. A world-destroying power rippled out, shattering the dragon veins, one after another. This kind of collision was simply too shocking. After being suppressed for so many years, your cultivation has also fallen. The old man, with the demeanor of a transcendent being, said coldly, "Ha ha ha!" The foreign king laughed loudly. "No matter how much it has fallen, I have no problem dealing with you all." The foreign king was incomparably arrogant. He did not put the three ancestors of the Confucian school in his eyes at all. He continued to urge the blood-colored moon. The three ancestors of the Confucian school joined forces to urge the Sky Phoenix cleansing diagram. However, even if the three ancestors of the Confucian school joined forces to urge the Sky Phoenix cleansing diagram, they were still suppressed by the foreign king. Although the realm of the king of the foreign creatures had fallen greatly, even falling from the saint realm, the king of the foreign creatures was still a saint realm expert. However, his comprehension and control of the great Tao were still at the saint realm. This was not something that those cultivators who had never stepped into the saint realm could compare to. Therefore, that was why the foreign king was so terrifying. The three ancestors of the Confucian school's faces became paler and paler. "Run, hurry up and run. If you don't run, you really won't be able to escape," Taoist Wu Yang said. Lin Feng's expression also became extremely solemn. The foreign king was indeed a bit too terrifying. However, leaving now seemed a bit disloyal. Lin Feng said, "You must have a powerful binding magic treasure, right? Hurry up and take it out to deal with the foreign king. I'll shoot an arrow at him and see if it can kill him. If it can't, it won't be too late for us to run. Let's agree. If we can't beat him, we'll run. I don't want to fight with an existence of this level. My legs are weak now," Taoist Wu Yang said with a sad face. Lin Feng didn't believe Taoist Wu Yang's nonsense at all. Lin Feng had seen Taoist Wu Yang's tribulation with his own eyes, so he knew how powerful Taoist Wu Yang was. This damn Taoist Wu Yang pretended to be crazy all day long and ran when he encountered danger. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough. It was that Taoist Wu Yang didn't want to participate in these battles at all. He only wanted to secretly reap benefits. Of course we agreed. If we can't beat him and still don't run, wouldn't we be stupid? Lin Feng curled his lips and said, as soon as he finished speaking, Chapter 48:21, Immeasurable Taoist took out a rope-type supreme treasure. This supreme treasure was surrounded by immortal energy. It was an ultimate true immortal magic treasure. It felt a bit like an immortal binding rope, but it was obviously not an immortal binding rope. However, even if it was not an immortal binding rope, Lin Feng still felt that this supreme treasure was extremely extraordinary. Perhaps it had an astonishing origin. When Immeasurable Taoist injected his magic power into that treasure, that treasure actually instantly restrained its form. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng's face revealed an extremely shocked expression. Immeasurable Taoist really had all kinds of treasures. It was unbelievable. But thinking about it, this damned Taoist dug up ancient cultivators' graves all day long. After so many years, he must have collected many top-notch supreme treasures. At this moment, the magic power of the three Confucian sect ancestors continuously poured into the ancient weapon Phoenix Sky cleansing diagram. The three Confucian sect ancestors were indeed very powerful, but in reality, even experts of their level could only activate a portion of the ancient weapon's power. Perhaps only when they reached the Saint Realm could they truly release the power of the ancient weapon. If the power of the ancient weapon could be released, perhaps they could suppress the foreign king. However, if he wanted to suppress the foreign king right now, it was just too difficult. Even though they tried to release more power of the ancient weapon, they were still unable to suppress the foreign king. On the contrary, the foreign king seemed to be at ease. It seemed that the foreign king had not used his full strength yet. Not using his full strength, he had already displayed such terrifying battle strength. If he used his full strength, then the foreign king's battle strength was simply unimaginable. And just as the three Confucian sect ancestors were being suppressed more and more, the rope-type magic treasure that immeasurable Taoist took out flew to the side of the foreign king. Then, it wrapped around the foreign king, because the rope-type supreme treasure was invisible at the beginning. Therefore, even the foreign king did not notice the rope-type magic treasure. Only when the rope-type magical artifact appeared by the foreign life king's side and revealed itself did the foreign life king discover the rope-type magical artifact. However, at this time, that rope-type magical artifact already wrapped towards the foreign king. The foreign king wanted to avoid the rope-type magical artifact's entanglement, but it was already too late. That rope-type magical artifact wrapped around the foreign creature king. Whoosh! Meanwhile, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. When immeasurable Taoist made his move, Lin Feng shot out the shooting sun god arrow. The sun-shooting divine arrow tore through the void, instantly arriving at the foreign king's side. Then, it shot towards the foreign king's chest. The foreign king's expression suddenly changed. Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist duo, he had never taken them seriously before. In the eyes of the foreign king, Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist priest were simply like ants. However, today, he was clearly going to suffer a great loss at the hands of the immeasurable Taoist and Lin Feng, since his body was entangled by the rope magic treasure unleashed by Taoist Wuliang. There was no way for him to dodge the sun-shooting divine arrow shot out by Lin Feng. Pooh! Accompanied by the sound of the arrow piercing through the flesh, Lin Feng's shooting sun god arrow directly pierced through the foreign king's chest. But what Lin Feng didn't expect was that the shooting sun god arrow was actually stuck in the foreign king's chest. The king of foreign creatures roared out in anger. His chest was pierced through, but he didn't die. His roar reverberated through the void. Right now, the foreign king's fury simply overflowed into the heavens. What kind of person was he? He was actually schemed against by two ants. It was simply a great humiliation. He struggled violently. The rope-type magical artifact that was wrapped around the foreign king's body was instantly broken free by the foreign king. Then the foreign king pulled out the shooting sun god arrow that pierced through his chest. He even wanted to break the shooting sun god arrow, but he couldn't do it. Damn, you didn't even die? Lin Feng looked at the foreign king in disbelief. The foreign king's chest was pierced through by the shooting sun god arrow. Under normal circumstances, after a cultivator's body was pierced through by the shooting sun god arrow, The power of the shooting sun god arrow could instantly destroy all the life force of a cultivator. However, the king of the foreign creatures actually survived. This was too terrifying. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Meanwhile, at this very moment, the foreign king, who couldn't break the sun-shooting divine arrows, directly threw them onto the ground. Then he pounced towards Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. The three ancestors of the Confucian sect couldn't injure the foreign king even when they worked together. But Lin Feng and the boundless Taoist priest had managed to injure the king of the otherworldly spirits. The foreign king couldn't endure such humiliation. Right now, he wanted to immediately kill Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. Lin Feng summoned the shooting sun god arrow over, while the immeasurable Taoist took away his rope-type magic treasure. The two of them turned and ran without thinking. Being able to injure the foreign king was already their limit. The foreign king's life force was just too terrifying. So, right now, Lin Feng didn't have much hope of killing the foreign king. At this time, it was better to leave. Kill him. When the three ancestors of the Confucian sect saw that the foreign king was injured by Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist, their spirits were lifted. They hurriedly urged the Phoenix Sky cleansing diagram to kill the foreign king. The foreign king wanted to kill Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist immediately. But now he was stopped by the three ancestors of the Confucian sect. The three ancestors of the Confucian sect. How could they be so easy to deal with when their cultivation realm was so high and they were using a supreme treasure like the ancient weapon? Before, when he wasn't injured, he could still suppress the three ancestors of the Confucian sect. Now that he was injured, his combat strength had dropped greatly. So, facing the attacks of the three ancestors of the Confucian sect, the foreign king didn't dare to be careless. The foreign king controlled the blood moon to fight the three ancestors of the Confucian sect. Seeing that the foreign king was stopped by the three ancestors of the Confucian sect, Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist let out a long breath. They stopped and watched the battle from afar. The three ancestors of the Confucian sect wanted to seize the critical moment when the foreign king was injured to kill him. So, at this moment, they no longer held back. The magic power of the three ancestors of the Confucian sect gushed out crazily. Then all of that magic power poured into the Phoenix Sky cleansing diagram. The fire phoenix formed by the Phoenix Sky cleansing diagram actually grew 2 heads. The fire phoenix's strength couldn't help but soar. Chapter 48:22. The wings of the two-headed fire phoenix shattered the void. From this, it could be seen how astonishing the two-headed fire phoenix's combat strength had been raised to. Lin Feng held the Ho Yi Bao and Sunshot Divine Arrow in his hand. If there was a chance, he planned to shoot another arrow at the king of foreign creatures. Immeasurable Taoist was also rubbing his fists because they really did see some hope of killing the king of foreign creatures. If they really killed the king of foreign creatures, just the origin of the king of foreign creatures alone was enough to make people go crazy. Moreover, the king of foreign creatures definitely had a lot of good things on him, such as that blood-colored moon. Its power was so terrifying that it made people's hearts palpitate. Blood moon world annihilation. The king of foreign creatures let out an extremely cold shout. His voice contained monstrous killing intent. A large amount of blood-colored energy escaped from the blood-colored moon. Under the king of foreign creatures' control, the power of the blood-colored moon also increased. However, although the king of foreign creatures was powerful, he was still injured. Forcibly increasing the power of the blood-colored moon consumed a lot of his energy. Therefore, the king of foreign creatures' expression became extremely unsightly. The blood-colored moon and the two-headed fire phoenix collided. This collision was completely different from the previous one. The king of foreign creatures was suppressed by the Confucian sect's three ancestors. Taoist, use your rope magic treasure to sneak attack this grandson. Lin Feng said. Immeasurable Taoist grinned and said, "Of course." His rope-like magic treasure once again vanished into thin air. Lin Feng took out a quiver. There were many magic arrows in it. The power of the magic arrows was far inferior to the sunshot divine arrow. However, the power of the magic arrows was much greater than the power of the energy arrows. To deal with other creatures, Lin Feng usually used the sunshot divine arrow. The energy arrows were enough, but to deal with a terrifying existence like the king of foreign creatures, naturally, he had to use all his strength. Whoosh, 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 one magic arrow after another was shot out by Lin Feng. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had already shot out over 100 magic arrows. Of course, this wasn't the most terrifying part. The most frightening part was that Lin Feng had hidden the sun-shooting divine arrow among the many arrows. Moreover, Lin Feng had used a special method to change the shape of the shooting sun god arrow. In terms of appearance, the shooting sun god arrow looked exactly the same as other magic arrows. Therefore, it was impossible to tell which arrow was the real shooting sun god arrow. That way, Lin Feng would be able to use the godly sunshot arrow to its maximum potential. It would also be unpredictable. At this moment, when the foreign king who was fighting against the three Confucian sect ancestors saw the many arrows shooting at him, his face became extremely gloomy. He had been injured by Lin Feng before. Now, Lin Feng took action again. The foreign king's hatred naturally overflowed into the heavens. However, in the face of Lin Feng's arrow attack, he did not dare to underestimate it. Therefore, when Lin Feng's arrow was shot at him, the foreign king opened his mouth and spat out a large amount of black gas. The black gas swept towards the hundreds of magic arrows shot by Lin Feng. Bang, bang, bang. After the magic arrows were touched by the black gas, they were directly broken. The power of the foreign king's black gas was actually so terrifying. However, at this time, immeasurable Taoist's rope once again silently appeared beside the foreign king. Immeasurable Taoist's rope-type magic treasure could hide his body. Therefore, that was why it was so strange and unpredictable. That rope-type magic treasure once again wrapped around the foreign king's body. This time, the foreign king was once again entangled by immeasurable Taoist's rope-type magic treasure. At the same time, Lin Feng's shooting sun god arrow blocked the powerful black gas spat out by the foreign king. In addition, there were several magic arrows that also blocked the powerful black gas spat out by the foreign king. These magical arrows, together with the sun-shooting divine arrows, shot towards the foreign king of creatures. Two terrifying beams of light shot out from the foreign king's eyes. Those two beams of light directly swept towards those magic arrows. Clang, 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 clang. The magic arrows were shattered one after another. However, there were still two magic arrows that dodged the two beams of light, including the shooting sun god arrow. A total of 3 magical arrows shot towards the body of the foreign creature king. The sound of flesh piercing through could not help but be heard. Of the 3 magic arrows, 2 of them only shot into the foreign king's body about 3 inches away, and then they were stuck in the foreign king's body. Only the magic arrow formed by the shooting sun god arrow pierced through the foreign king's body. The foreign king let out an incomparably painful roar. His eyes turned blood-red. Such a tyrannical existence, like him. Even though his strength had fallen, he was still a top-notch expert. But now, he was actually injured by Lin Feng and immeasurable Taoist's joint attack twice. Extraordinary humiliation. It was truly an extraordinary humiliation. In the endless life of the foreign king, he had never suffered this type of humiliation before. Even though he was suppressed by Kong and Meng back then, it was only because Kong and Meng worked together. And in that battle, Kong and Meng didn't have it easy either. Even though they suppressed him, they were injured because of it. His later fall was most likely related to this injury. That was why. The foreign king was incomparably arrogant. He was a high and mighty existence. Towards dignity and face, these things were naturally extremely important. However, Lin Feng, an immeasurable Taoist, had already seriously injured his body twice, making the foreign king simply want to go crazy. He began to struggle intensely, wanting to break free from the restraints of immeasurable Taoist's rope-type magic artifact. When the Confucian sect's 3 ancestors saw this scene, they hurriedly flew over. They activated the Phoenix Sky Cleansing Diagram with all their strength. The Phoenix Sky Cleansing Diagram displayed great might, striking that blood-colored moon back into the foreign king's body. The Phoenix Sky Cleansing Diagram transformed back into the original form of the Phoenix Sky Cleansing Diagram. Under the control of the Confucian sect's 3 ancestors, the Phoenix Sky Cleansing Diagram descended from the sky, suppressing the foreign king. The foreign king continued to struggle. The Confucian sect's 3 ancestors suppressed him with all their strength. However, the foreign king struggled too fiercely. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he would be able to break free. "Little friend Lin, quickly come and kill him," Teacher Zhu shouted loudly. The Confucian sect's 3 ancestors were currently suppressing the foreign king with all their strength, unable to free themselves to kill the foreign king. Therefore, Teacher Zhu asked Lin Feng for help. Lin Feng quickly flew over. He brought out the black dragon sword. Then, he held the black dragon sword with both hands and slashed towards the foreign king's neck. The foreign king's eyes coldly looked at Lin Feng. That pair of cold eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent and hatred. Pooh! In the next moment. Chapter 48:23. He's finally dead, after successfully chopping off the head of the foreign creature king. Yi Zichen's expression changed drastically. Lin Feng finally heaved a sigh of relief. The pressure this foreign king gave off was just too great. So many experts, activating the ancient weapons, Ho Yibao, sun-shooting divine arrow, and other top-notch treasures. Only then did they kill him. It really wasn't easy. Moreover, the entire process was extremely dangerous. The slightest bit of carelessness could have resulted in death. But now, everything was over. The king of the foreign creatures was killed. He had become a thing of the past. Next, it was time to enjoy the fruits of victory. But as soon as Lin Feng had that thought, his blood suddenly started pumping faster. Sudden impulse. There was danger. Although Lin Feng didn't know what kind of danger there was, when the blood in his body accelerated, Lin Feng didn't dare to hesitate. He hurriedly used the heaven-mending technique, and his body instantly disappeared from the spot. At the moment when Lin Feng disappeared, an invisible force directly exploded where Lin Feng was standing. The void was blasted apart. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng's face immediately revealed a shocked expression. Fortunately, he had the ability of sudden impulse. Otherwise, he would have been in danger just now. At this moment, Lin Feng realized that it was actually the head of the foreign king that was chanting the incantation. This made Lin Feng's face reveal an expression of disbelief. The foreign king's head was chopped off, but not only did he not die, he even launched an attack on him. It was really unbelievable. Damn it! The foreign king's had let out an angry roar. He was extremely annoyed that he didn't kill Lin Feng. The foreign king's head then flew towards its own body. Then, the head and the body recombined. What's going on? Everyone was dumbfounded. The head was chopped off, but it could still be reattached. This vitality seemed to be too abnormal, right? Back then, even Confucius and Mencius couldn't kill me, let alone you people. I am an immortal existence. The foreign king coldly said. This guy was arrogant, but he did have the right to be arrogant. His body, he was indeed abnormal. It made people exclaim in admiration, shock, and move. No wonder he had been suppressed this entire time and not killed by the experts of the Confucian sect. In truth, Lin Feng speculated that the experts of the Confucian sect also wanted to kill the otherworldly king, but they had never been able to do so. Then I'll suppress you first. I don't believe that I can't kill you. Lin Feng sneered. Confucian sect's three ancestors used Phoenix Sky cleansing diagram to suppress the foreign creature king, temporarily preventing him from breaking free. Taoist Wu Yang flew out and took out a Taoist talisman. Then the Taoist talisman shone with holy light. Next, that talisman was stuck to the foreign king's forehead. The foreign king immediately couldn't move at all. We helped you all suppress the foreign king. We don't want anything else. We only want the foreign king's storage ring. Taoist Wu Yang shouted. The three ancestors of the Confucian sect looked at each other. Master Zhu nodded and said, All right, you can take the storage ring. Lin Feng took off the storage ring and put it away for the time being. He would check what was inside later. Taoist Wu Yang originally wanted to take the storage ring, but Lin Feng was a step ahead of him. He couldn't help but roll his eyes. If this guy took off the storage ring, there was an 80% chance that he would run away like a wisp of smoke and then keep the storage ring for himself. Lin Feng was too familiar with Taoist Wu Yang, which was why Lin Feng took off the storage ring in advance. Seniors, how do you plan to deal with the foreign king? Lin Feng asked. Teacher Zhu said, the foreign king's seal has already been broken. Right now, there is no way to suppress the foreign king here. We plan to head to the outer world and search for the deep-sea devil cave to suppress the foreign king. The main reason was that they couldn't kill the foreign king. If they could kill it, they wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. This junior has heavenly fire. Perhaps I can use it to deal with the foreign king. Let's see if it can burn it to death. Lin Feng said. Hearing this, the eyes of the three ancestors of the Confucian sect lit up. We'll have to trouble you to give it a try, the three ancestors of the Confucian sect said in unison. Lin Feng nodded. Then he took out the black flame god devouring fire. He didn't take out all of his heavenly fire. After all, one had to be wary of others. The black flame god devouring fire burned fiercely. Taoist Wu Yang's talisman was very mysterious. It wasn't affected by the heavenly fire at all. However, what made Lin Feng frown was that his heavenly fire didn't cause too much damage to the foreign king's body. The foreign king's defense was really terrifying. Lin Feng put away the heavenly fire and said, This guy is immune to heavenly fire. It seems like the idea of using heavenly fire to deal with it will fail. The three ancestors of the Confucian sect also felt a little regretful. Then, Master Zhu took out a treasured cauldron, wanting to put the foreign king into it. However, at that moment, the void split open. Another foreign creature walked out. This one was much more pleasing to the eye. It looked very similar to a normal person, but there were a few mysterious runes between its brows. Moreover, this foreign creature was a woman. She held a blood-colored demonic saber in her hand and gently swept it through the void. Billions of saber lights shook out. They swept towards everyone. This foreign creature's appearance was too sudden. Her attack was extremely terrifying. The expressions of Lin Feng and the others couldn't help but change. Hurry up and dodge. Master Zhu couldn't help but shout in a deep voice. Everyone dodged the foreign creature's attack in a somewhat sorry state. This foreign creature was clearly extremely skilled in concealment techniques. Thus, before she attacked, no one discovered her. Even the three ancestors of the Confucian sect couldn't detect her. This should be a racial talent. She was simply a natural-born killer. At the critical moment, Lin Feng took out his ruler's armor. Clang, 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 clang. The saber lights swept across Lin Feng's body, and the sound of collision rang out. Those attacks were all blocked by Lin Feng's ruler's armor. Lin Feng was swept away. He felt his blood and qi roil, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Taoist Wu Liang took out his golden armor robe. The golden armor helped him block the attacks of the saber lights. The three ancestors of the Confucian sect had profound realms. They used their own strength to neutralize the opponent's attack. The foreign creature didn't plan on fighting Lin Feng and the others for a long time. Her target was the foreign king. Chapter 48:24. Chase, the three Confucian sect ancestors shouted as they tore through the void and gave chase. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang also chased after them. But in the end, they returned without success. The three Confucian sect ancestors had yet to return. By the time Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang returned to the Confucian sect, the battle in the Confucian sect had already ended. Many Confucian sect cultivators had been killed. So the atmosphere in the Confucian sect was extremely heavy. Capture them. Su Zishan flew over with a group of cultivators, including Su Ming, Wu Tianyuan, and the others. At Su Zishan's order, the Confucian cultivators immediately surrounded Lin Feng's group. What is the meaning of this? Lin Feng asked with a gloomy expression. Su Zishan sneered and continued, "Don't you know what I mean?" "I don't understand." "Please explain, Your Excellency," said Lin Feng indifferently. "Our Confucian sect has always been very peaceful, but after you all came to our Confucian sect, the otherworldly creatures appeared and rescued the otherworldly king that had been suppressed below for many years. Our Confucian sect has always been heavily guarded, and it is very difficult for others to enter. Unless there is a spy, how could the otherworldly king be rescued? As for who the spy is, there is no need for this seat to explain, right?" Su Zishan said with an indifferent expression. He looked at Lin Feng's group with a gaze full of ridicule. As the saying went, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Lin Feng knew that Su Zishan was using this opportunity to make things difficult for them. And his reason was very good. What a sinister fellow. The current situation was indeed extremely disadvantageous for them, but Lin Feng naturally wouldn't admit to something he hadn't done. His voice was gloomy as he said, "The few of us have always been upright and upright. We've never done anything like this. Moreover, the Confucian sect has three ancestors and the sect master. Who do you think you are in the Confucian sect? The three ancestors and the sect master haven't even said anything yet, and you're already giving orders? You really think too highly of yourself." Being mocked by Lin Feng like this, Su Zishan's face suddenly sank. He was choked by Lin Feng's words and couldn't say anything. But Su Zishan was someone who had seen great storms and waves, so he quickly calmed down and sneered. "The three ancestors have gone to chase down the fleeing foreign king, while the sect master has led the Confucian sect's experts to chase down the other fleeing foreign creatures. Now, I naturally have the authority to decide the Confucian sect's matters. Everyone, go ahead and kill them. Avenge the deaths of our Confucian sect cultivators." "Do it." Many Confucian sect cultivators called out. "Vice sect leader, they couldn't be spies. Previously, they helped us resist those foreign creatures." A Confucian sect cultivator called out. "They are just trying to be mysterious. Don't be deceived by these people, Su Zishan said solemnly. Obviously, Su Zishan was just looking for an excuse to get rid of Lin Feng's group. The reason for that was because Lin Feng had defeated Wu Tianyuan and Su Ming using pairs of chess pieces. He had made the two of them lose face. Su Zishan was someone who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Moreover, Su Zishan was very interested in Lin Feng's many treasures and legacies. Thus, he wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of Lin Feng's group. If the three ancestors returned and questioned Su Zishan had already thought of what to say. He would use the fact that Lin Feng's group was a spy to slander Lin Feng's group. In truth, Su Zishan already knew that Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist had helped the three ancestors deal with the foreign king. But Su Zishan pretended not to know. If the three ancestors mentioned this matter when they reprimanded him, Su Zishan had already thought of what to do. When the time came, he would apologize to the three ancestors and say that he had misunderstood Lin Feng's group and killed Lin Feng's group by mistake. Could it be that the three ancestors of the scholarly faction would punish Su Zishan for the deaths of a few outsiders? When the time came, this matter would be reduced to a small matter and nothing more. Su Zishan had thought of every step. It was precisely because of this that Su Zishan dared to kill Lin Feng's group without fear. The group of Confucian sect experts launched a powerful offensive against Lin Feng's group. But Lin Feng's group had never explained this matter. Lin Feng's group knew that Su Zishan wanted to kill them, but he had only found a shoddy excuse. Explaining was useless. Since that was the case, there was no need to waste any more saliva. Immeasurable Heavenly Lord, my 18 generations of ancestors, this Taoist has never been slandered like this before. Immeasurable Taoist cursed loudly. Immeasurable Taoist took out several hundred Taoist talismans. The Taoist talismans flew out. Next, the Taoist talismans exploded. A world-destroying energy engulfed the Confucian sect experts attacking Lin Feng's group. Miserable screams rang out as many Confucian sect experts died miserably. At this time, Lin Feng used the Tao of space to construct a spatial gate. The group of them entered the spatial gate and quickly disappeared without a trace. Swish! With a flash of light, Lin Feng's group appeared in a forest 300 li away. That old bastard Su Zishan should be killed. Du Zhu cursed. Save it. Su Yuanyi of the three ancestors is Su Zishan's ancestor. Immeasurable Taoist said. Su Yuanyi was the immortal-looking cultivator of the Confucian sect's three ancestors. Lin Feng frowned and said, if Su Yuanyi is Su Zishan's ancestor, why did Su Zishan take Teacher Zhu as his master? Immeasurable Taoist said, this is where Su Zishan is smart. In this way, he has the support of two big shots behind him. That's why Su Zishan has a high chance of becoming the new sect master. Although we helped the three ancestors deal with the otherworldly king, and we have a good relationship with Teacher Zhu, don't forget that we are still outsiders. Su Zishan is a member of the Confucian sect. Immeasurable Taoist usually didn't seem very reliable, but in reality, he was a very shrewd and intelligent person. His analysis hit the nail on the head. I hope Su Zishan won't vent his anger on Scholar Ning because of us. Lin Feng frowned. He really wanted to kill Su Zishan right now. However, it was clearly not possible for him to do so. Su Zishan himself was terrifying enough. Moreover, he had the Confucian sect behind him. Lin Feng was more worried about Scholar Ning. Given Su Zishan's temperament, it was indeed possible for him to vent his anger on Scholar Ning. Chapter 48:25. Taoist Wu Liang said, actually, you don't have to worry about Scholar Ning. Do you really think that Scholar Ning has become stupid from studying? In fact, Scholar Ning is a person who pretends to be stupid. to be able to stay in the Confucian sect for such a long time. If he didn't have any ability, how could he stay there for so long? Hence, elementary scholaring is definitely more powerful than you can imagine. After hearing Taoist Wu Liang's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but think carefully. He felt that Taoist Wu Liang's words were very reasonable. Therefore, Lin Feng nodded and said, "Okay, since that's the case, let's leave this place. Let's return to the Whitebone region first." The others naturally didn't have any objections. Everyone directly returned to the Whitebone region and Whitebone City. After returning, Taoist Wu Liang couldn't wait to pull Lin Feng, wanting to see what good things were in the storage ring of the King of Foreign Creatures. Previously, Lin Feng was worried that the King of Foreign Creatures could sense his storage ring, so he had sealed it and didn't take it out. Now that there was enough time, it was indeed time to see what good things were in the storage ring of the King of Foreign Creatures. Lin Feng sealed the room with a restriction to prevent the King of Foreign Creatures from sensing his storage ring. Then, he took out the storage ring of the King of Foreign Creatures. It was no wonder that Lin Feng was so careful. The main reason was that the King of Foreign Creatures was too terrifying, so he had to be on guard against this existence. Otherwise, if the King of Foreign Creatures found him, it would be terrible. After seeing Lin Feng take out the storage ring of the King of Foreign Creatures, Taoist Wu Liang's eyes began to shine. This guy would be like this every time he saw a treasure. So Lin Feng was already used to it. If Taoist Wu Liang could still remain calm, Lin Feng would feel that it was more strange. Lin Feng's divine thought entered the storage ring. Suddenly, he found that this storage ring was very similar to the Mountain River ring. There was a large space inside. In that space, there were mountains of crystals piled up one after another. There were thousands of crystal mountains. Lin Feng took out a crystal stone and said, "There are 4,000 to 5,000 crystal stones piled up here, and they are this kind of crystal stone. What the hell is this? This is the first time I've seen this kind of crystal." When Taoist Wu Liang saw the crystal stone that Lin Feng took out, he suddenly showed a surprised expression. He asked, "Is what you just said true? Are there really 4,000 to 5,000 of these mountains of crystals inside?" Seeing Immeasurable Taoist's reaction, Lin Feng guessed that Immeasurable Taoist already knew what those crystals were. He nodded and said, "Yes, there are indeed so many mountains of crystals. You still haven't told me what they are. This is a black jade sky crystal. It isn't something from our universe, but rather something from the universe of the foreign creatures. And this kind of black jade sky crystal is good stuff. It's equivalent to the immortal stones in our universe, and it's equivalent to a high-grade immortal stone." After hearing Immeasurable Taoist's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Actually, in the space-time of their universe, immortal stones were also precious resources. Low-grade immortal stones were relatively common. However, middle-grade immortal stones were relatively rare. The immortal stones circulating in the market were basically all low-grade immortal stones. Although there was an exchange rate between middle-grade and low-grade immortal stones, in reality, low-grade immortal stones could not be exchanged for middle-grade immortal stones. Very few people would use high-grade immortal stones to exchange for low-grade immortal stones. As for high-grade immortal stones, that was even rarer. High-grade immortal stones were very precious. High-grade immortal stones were precious because they were too difficult to find. More than 90% of the immortal stones that could be mined from an immortal vein were low-grade immortal stones. Middle-grade immortal stones were close to 10%. High-grade immortal stones were less than 1%. Most of the time, not even a single high-grade immortal stone could be found. Therefore, high-grade immortal stones were very precious. There were a total of 4,000 to 5,000 black jade sky crystals in this storage ring. Each of them was about 100 million. Added together, that was 4 to 500 billion. It was equivalent to 4 to 500 billion high-grade immortal stones. This was too shocking. It was simply enough to support a top sect for hundreds of thousands of years without any problem. Immeasurable Taoist said, "Quickly see if there are any other treasures." Now, this damned Taoist was already dancing with joy. Even if he and Lin Feng divided these black jade sky crystals equally, he would still be able to get more than 200 billion black jade sky crystals. When the time came, what couldn't he buy? Money could make the devil turn millstones. Wasn't this the truth? Lin Feng continued to explore the internal space of the storage ring. There were many things in the internal space of the storage ring. For example, there were mountains of various ores, refining materials, and so on. These things could be forged into powerful divine weapons and then used to equip the army. In addition, there were also a large number of spirit fields in the internal space of the storage ring. In those spirit fields, there were all kinds of spirit herbs. Now, many of the spirit herbs had been growing for more than 1,000,000 years. All of them had turned into immortal herbs. There were probably tens of thousands of immortal herbs. There were even more immortal herbs than immortal herbs. Even the rich Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal an extremely shocked expression when he saw those immortal herbs and spirit herbs. The number of immortal herbs and spirit herbs was simply shocking. In addition, Lin Feng also saw all kinds of Dharma treasures. There were also many, and there were more than 100 immortal artifact-level Dharma treasures. However, there were no Dharma treasures above sage artifact level. This was a bit of a pity. Lin Feng reckoned that the Dharma treasures above sage artifact level were all on the body of that otherworld creature. For example, the blood moon that he saw earlier. It was definitely no small matter. In addition, Lin Feng also found all kinds of rare treasures. There were many rare treasures that even he had never seen before, and he didn't know if they were rare treasures in the other world. Originally, Lin Feng wanted to look for some Tao teachings, but he couldn't find any. It seemed that the otherworld king was very cautious. He had memorized all the Tao teachings in his mind and didn't leave behind any books or jade tubes. Even so, Lin Feng was already satisfied. If he couldn't get the Tao teachings of the otherworld king, then so be it. The various things collected in the otherworld king's storage ring were already shocking enough. Everything. Lin Feng and Immeasurable Taoist basically divided them equally. After Immeasurable Taoist left Lin Feng's place, a voice suddenly resounded in Lin Feng's mind. "Lin Feng, how about we negotiate?" Chapter 48:26. Murong Yuxuan had been suppressed by Lin Feng for a while now. Recently, Murong Yuxuan hadn't done anything. Only today did she take the initiative to contact Lin Feng. In truth, Lin Feng wanted to continue wasting the chart of Godly King's energy. After some time, he would try to enter the chart of Godly Kings again. Since Murong Yuxuan had taken the initiative to contact him, Lin Feng wanted to talk to Murong Yuxian and see what she wanted to say. Lin Feng said, "You want to negotiate with me? That depends on what you can give me." Murong Yuxuan said, "You can gain my friendship and the friendship of Godly King Valley. It's very important to you. After all, you're the master of Sin Realm. However, you should know that Sin Realm is surrounded by danger. It's better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Apart from my friendship with Godly King Valley, I can also give you many good things. For example, high-grade immortal stones, immortal herbs, immortal pills, and so on. What do you think?" Lin Feng said indifferently, "Are you trying to paint a picture of me?" "Of course not." Murong Yuxuan said, "I'm being very sincere." Lin Feng said, "But women are fickle. Moreover, I don't trust Godly King Valley. Moreover, compared to the things you've mentioned, I'm actually more interested in you. Morong Yuxuan said. I already have a fiancé. You should know this already. Lin Feng smiled. Of course I know. What's wrong? Are you still thinking of keeping your chastity for your fiancé? That's what a woman should do. Morong Yuxuan said. Lin Feng nodded. It's really admirable that you have such thoughts. Right now, I seem to have become an unpardonable demon, and you're a delicate and weak woman. However, that's not the case. Our ancestors shed blood and sacrificed themselves for this era. However, you great forces once massacred the so-called sinner's blood in order to snatch the resources that originally belonged to us. Therefore, no matter what I do to you, I have a clear conscience. Morong Yuxuan said, That's something done by the older generation. What does it have to do with us? Lin Feng sneered. How laughable. Bloodlines are passed down, and so is hatred. Since there is hatred, why would they care about when or which generation it was formed? Back then, if you had the chance to kill me, would you have let me go? Don't ever say that you'll let me go. You might be able to fool a 3-year-old child, but I don't. Morong Yuxuan said. Our God King Valley has always been a neutral faction. We don't have any deep grudges with the sinner's blood. Lin Feng sneered and said, But the enmity between the floating cloud palace and the sinner's blood is very deep. You will marry into the floating cloud palace in the future. So why would I let the tiger return to the mountain? I won't get involved in this matter, Morong Yuxuan said. There's a saying that goes, a person in the underworld has no choice. When the time comes, even if you don't want to participate, the reality of the situation will force you to participate in these things. Therefore, it won't be so easy for me to let you go. Of course, I didn't say that I can't let you go. In fact, if you promise me one thing, I will let you go, Lin Feng said. Morong Yuxuan frowned slightly. She originally thought that Lin Feng's attitude wouldn't be as unyielding as before after a period of time. At that moment, Lin Feng was at a stage where it was easy to talk to him. Therefore, as long as she promised great benefits, she would definitely be able to negotiate with Lin Feng. However, after coming into contact with Lin Feng, Morong Yuxuan discovered that Lin Feng was still as unyielding as before. Morong Yuxuan also knew that what Lin Feng said might cause her to pay a great price, but she had no other choice. Therefore, she could only follow Lin Feng's train of thought. Morong Yuxuan asked, What do you want me to do? Be my woman. Lin Feng said, Dream on. Morong Yuxuan said coldly. Morong Yuxuan said coldly. Lin Feng said, I'm not done yet. Morong Yuxuan ignored Lin Feng. Said Lin Feng, Just be my woman for one day. I don't think the Yun Fu Palace would allow their direct descendant to marry a woman who has an affair with another man, right? Said Lin Feng, ignoring Lin Feng. When the time comes, I can let you go without worry. Of course, don't worry, I will take responsibility for you. I will send someone to God King Valley to explain this matter. I will say that both of us are in love with each other. This way, your reputation won't be tarnished, and neither will the reputation of God King Valley be tarnished. What do you think? After hearing Lin Feng's words, Morong Yuxuan said angrily, Lin Feng, you are really a shameless villain. Look at what you're saying. How am I shameless? I am giving you a chance to live. You should be thanking me. Lin Feng said indifferently. Then, his expression turned cold. In order to survive, there are times when you have to do something. Even if you have to bear a bad reputation, you still have to do it. I am different from you. I have too many responsibilities on my shoulders. Is this the reason why you can openly possess her? Morong Yuxuan said sarcastically. Lin Feng said, If you think that this reason isn't enough, then I will give you another reason. A peerless beauty like you should be my woman. I am not willing to become another man's woman. Morong Yuxuan was slightly stunned. Then she scolded angrily, "Shameless! I will give you some time to think about it. Wait until you have thought about it. Then give me a reply," Lin Feng said, and then cut off the connection with Morong Yuxuan. No matter what, Lin Feng wouldn't let Morong Yuxuan go so easily. That night, outside Whitebone City, 4 cultivators walked in. They were 4 cultivators. They were all wearing long robes. Their faces were ugly, but their auras were extremely terrifying. It was as if they were creatures that had walked out of hell. Among the 4, the first one was a blind man with a zither on his back. The second one was a lame man with a chessboard in his hand. The third one was a deaf man with a bamboo flute in his hand. The fourth one was a mute man with a jade flute in his hand. Wherever the 4 cultivators passed by, the flowers and trees would rapidly wither and die. "Is this the place?" the blind man asked. Chapter 48:27. The next day, the Mu siblings invited Lin Feng for a chat. It seemed that the Mu siblings were quite well informed. Lin Feng had not been in Whitebone City for long, yet the Mu siblings had already discovered him. Lin Feng did not reject their invitation. He had wanted to bring Immeasurable Taoist, Du Zhu, and the others with him. However, Immeasurable Taoist and the others happened to come looking for Lin Feng. They said that they wanted to go out for a drink and asked Lin Feng if he wanted to go. Lin Feng almost fell to the ground. The poison ancestor was indeed very interested in drinking flower wine. However, Immeasurable Taoist was a Taoist. Lin Feng was speechless. Lin Feng was speechless. He was a Buddhist monk, and surprisingly he wanted to drink wine with prostitutes. "I want to go," Lin Feng said. "Hee, if you want to go, then let's go together. There's nothing going on anyway," Immeasurable Taoist said. "Earlier, the Mu siblings sent someone to invite me over for a chat. I wanted to invite you all, but since you want to drink, I won't invite you. Have fun," Lin Feng said. "The Mu siblings? Aren't they the children of the city lord? Hee, I remember that Mu Qinyu is a top-notch girl. After we're done with business, you can try asking her out. If she comes with you, it means that she's interested in you. Brother, don't worry. We won't be coming back tonight. We'll leave the house empty for you." Immeasurable Taoist laughed. This damn Taoist was really capable of saying anything. Lin Feng dared to guarantee that there was no Taoist more evil than this damn Taoist. "I'm a gentleman," Lin Feng said. "Brother, do you have some misunderstanding about the term gentleman?" Immeasurable Taoist said with a smile. Lin Feng threw a kick at him. However, Immeasurable Taoist, who was already prepared, quickly dodged. He dodged Lin Feng's kick. Then he smiled and said, "Then we'll be leaving. I wish you a happy day. Young master, we're leaving too. Have fun." Du Zhu and the others also grinned. Then the group of guys ran out. Lin Feng was speechless. He realized that the people around him were a bunch of indecent people. Originally, the evil Dominator Saint and the 2 ghost emperors were considered decent people. However, after spending a lot of time with Du Zhu, he felt that it was a good idea. He was also led astray by Du Zhu. Now, even the evil Dominator Saint and the 2 ghost emperors had become extremely improper. Lin Feng suddenly thought of a saying, "One is marked by the company one keeps." The ancients didn't lie to me. In the evening, Lin Feng went to the banquet alone. The Mu family sent a beast carriage. Lin Feng rode a beast carriage to the Mu clan. After arriving at the Mu family, Lin Feng got down from the beast carriage. Lin Gongzi, Mu Qinyu was already waiting for Lin Feng outside. She had a charming smile on her face. This woman exuded an astonishing charm from head to toe. And this charm, It made people go crazy. Fortunately, Lin Feng's self-control was quite strong. If it was any other man, they would have already been captivated by Mu Qianyu. Fairy Qianyu. Lin Feng cupped his fists. Mu Qianyu said apologetically, "Not long ago, brother was here waiting for young master's arrival with this servant. However, father just sent someone to look for brother. It seemed that he had something important to discuss, so brother left. Brother asked this servant to apologize to Lin Gongzi on his behalf." Lin Feng said, "No one can avoid suddenly encountering some important matters to deal with, so I understand Brother Mu. Therefore, Brother Mu doesn't need to apologize, and I have never blamed Brother Mu." Mu Qianyu said, "Young master is truly magnanimous. Let's not talk outside. Let's go inside and talk." "All right." Lin Feng nodded and entered the hall with Mu Qianyu. After the two of them sat down, a servant girl brought out immortal wine, dishes, and some spirit fruits. "This time, I actually have a rather important and urgent matter to tell Lin Gongzi," Mu Qianyu said. "Oh, what's the matter?" Lin Feng asked curiously. Mu Qianyu asked, "Young master, do you know that Crown Prince Di Wudao has broken through to the true immortal realm?" Lin Feng raised an eyebrow slightly. He hadn't expected Mu Qianyu to know about Crown Prince Di Wudao. Lin Feng said without batting an eyelid, "Tell me what you've heard." Mu Qianyu said, "We received some news that Di Wudao has secretly left the Crown Prince's palace. He's currently heading towards the Whitebone region. It's said that he's coming for Lin Gongzi." After hearing this news, Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. Di Wudao had only just broken through to the true immortal realm. However, Lin Feng knew that with Di Wudao's talent and accumulation, he could definitely challenge those higher-ranked true immortals. Currently, he could only deal with those lower-ranked true immortals. Right now, he was probably still no match for Di Wudao. If Di Wudao really found him, it would indeed be an extremely troublesome matter. Moreover, in the Undying Realm, there were so many factions supporting Di Wudao. Di Wudao had hundreds of people responding to his call. When Di Wudao appeared, the experts he would have to face wouldn't be as simple as just Di Wudao alone. Therefore, this news was very important to him. He had to prepare early. If he could prepare early, he might be able to get rid of Di Wudao. This wasn't impossible. Of course, even if he couldn't get rid of Di Wudao, he could at least deal with some sudden dangers. Di Wudao had hidden too deeply, and his methods were too terrifying. If he wanted to deal with this person, he had to be on his guard. "Thank you, Fairy, for telling me this. Let me toast you 3 cups of wine," Lin Feng said. Then, he poured a cup of wine. He downed it in 1 gulp. After downing the first glass, Lin Feng downed 2 more glasses in a row. He downed all of them in 1 gulp. Mu Qianyu stood up and knelt in front of Lin Feng like a maid. She took the wine cup in Lin Feng's hand. She said flirtatiously, "Sir, we're all on the same side, so please don't thank me. However, if you really want to thank me, you'll have to listen to me later." Lin Feng said without batting an eyelid, "Of course I'll listen to you, Fairy. However, what do you want me to do?" Mu Qianyu said with a smile, "I just want to drink with you, sir. However, I don't like the way you drank just now, so let's change the way we drink." Lin Feng asked, "Change the way we drink? What kind of method should I use?" Chapter 48:28. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He had no idea what Mu Qianyu was up to. Lin Feng said, "That's not very good. After all, only married couples or lovers can drink cross-cupped wine. I'm a conservative person. I really can't do such a thing." Lin Feng felt that what he had just said wasn't true. The main reason was that he didn't want to have too much contact with Mu Qianyu. Hence, Lin Feng felt that Mu Qianyu was trying to get close to him because of some unspeakable secret. He had to be on guard against her. Hence, when faced with Mu Qianyu's various seductions, Lin Feng looked indifferent the whole time. Moreover, Lin Feng felt that Mu Qianyu was a little too open. Hence, no matter how beautiful she was, Lin Feng didn't want to have too much intimate contact with her. Look at your handsome face. It's actually turning red. I was just joking with you. Mu Qianyu stood up and returned to her seat. She was as beautiful and charming as ever. Lin Feng said, I didn't expect you to be such a humorous person. Mu Qianyu giggled and said, Truth be told, I really do admire young master. I wonder, what do you think of me? Mu Qianyu was a vixen. Her words were very bold and full of provocation. Lin Feng naturally didn't take Mu Qianyu's words to heart. He said, The apocalypse is coming. Hence, I've placed all my attention on cultivation. If it weren't for the apocalypse, I might have chosen to pursue you. Lin Feng's words were a mix of truth and lies. Mu Qianyu naturally knew that Lin Feng's words couldn't be taken seriously. Hence, she smiled and said, If that's the case, you and I aren't fated to be together? Lin Feng said, Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to survive until the next era. At that time, we might be able to continue our relationship. Mu Qianyu said, Actually, I feel that since we can't predict the future, why don't we enjoy the wonderful things and people that life brings to us when we're at the peak of our lives? Lin Feng muttered in his heart. This Mu Qianyu had been hinting at him time and time again. He really didn't know what she was thinking. Lin Feng's attitude was still the same as before. He said, You're really open-minded, fairy. But everyone is different, so everyone has different ideas. For example, fairy and I have different ideas. Everyone has their own ambitions. Since we've chosen the path we want to take, we won't give up halfway. Mu Qianyu seemed to understand Lin Feng's attitude from Lin Feng's words, so she didn't pursue the matter any further. Lin Feng didn't stop after leaving Mu Qianyu's place. He headed straight for his residence. At night, Whitebone City was still very lively. However, there seemed to be a trace of madness and sadness in the midst of this bustling life. Lin Feng returned to his residence. The estate they lived in was very large, with 10 individual courtyards. Each courtyard was several hundred meters away from each other. When Lin Feng returned, he heard the sound of a zither not far away. He thought that it was a peerless beauty playing the zither with the moonlight. However, when he got closer, he realized the person playing the zither was actually a blind man. Other than the blind man, there were also a few people standing next to the blind man. Those people also seemed to be people with incomplete bodies. Lin Feng suddenly thought of the demiurge-flawed four freaks. He didn't know where they had run off to. Lin Feng ignored the four strange cultivators and walked toward his residence. Not long after, Lin Feng walked to a place not far from the four freaks. Ding! Suddenly, the sound of a zither rang out. When he heard the sound of the zither, Lin Feng felt like his head was about to explode. This feeling, it was really quite uncomfortable, because Lin Feng felt that his body was on the verge of collapsing. It was as if he would fall to the ground at any time. Something's wrong. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. It was the sound of a zither. It was the sound of the blind man's zither that affected him. Lin Feng came back to his senses at this time. Fortunately, his soul force was strong enough to resolve the effect of the zither sound on his soul. Lin Feng looked at the four cultivators. He said with an indifferent expression, Your zither sound can silently affect other people's souls. What a good method. Lin Gongzi is also a good method to be able to resolve the effect of my zither sound in an instant. There aren't many people with such ability at this age, the blind man said. Lin Feng said indifferently, "Thank you for the compliment. However, I'm very curious about who the four of you are. Waiting here for me to come back. You should want to kill me, right?" The blind man said, "We have accepted the mission to kill you and will be able to get an incomparably generous reward. Of course, the four of us are also very interested in you. We heard that the treasures and supernatural powers on you are all top-notch. These things, we want them all." Lin Feng narrowed his eyes at the four people and said, "So, you are all assassins? Could it be that you are from the Blood Prison Assassin Dynasty?" Lin Feng had already come into contact with this assassin dynasty before. He had also successfully subdued Su Ruyan of the Blood Prison Assassin Dynasty. Moreover, Lin Feng had heard Su Ruyan mention some things about the Blood Prison Assassin Dynasty. Su Ruyan said that the assassins of the Blood Prison Assassin Dynasty were all strange. They were fundamentally different from the assassins of many assassin dynasties. The assassins of other assassin dynasties were really just assassins. However, the assassins of the Blood Prison Assassin Dynasty could be peddlers, beggars, shop assistants, brothels, hooligans, or even teachers. They could be everything. So, it could also be the four people in front of him. Looking at the four strange people who were somewhat down and out. However, who would dare to underestimate them? The blind man said, "Your Excellency is really a smart person to be able to guess our identities." Lin Feng said, "Actually, to be honest, your identities are not particularly difficult to guess." "Then, are you ready to die?" The blind man asked. "I should be the one to send the four of you to your deaths." Lin Feng's voice became cold. Swish! In the next moment, with a flash of light, the black dragon sword appeared in Lin Feng's hand. Lin Feng held the black dragon sword in his hand and rushed towards the four assassins. Fighting 3,000 miles in one go, fighting against 1,000,000 soldiers with a single sword, suddenly the blind man spoke, his right hand plucking the strings of the zither. Suddenly, Chapter 48:29, The Blind Man's Poem. It was really full of momentum. His poem had already merged with the sound of the zither, turning into a supreme sword chi. Lin Feng could feel the terror of that sword chi. Clang! Lin Feng held the black dragon sword and swept towards the incoming sword chi. Accompanied by a clanging sound of collision, the black dragon sword in Lin Feng's hand collided with the sword chi. In an instant, Lin Feng felt as if he had been hit by a divine mountain moving quickly in the void. That feeling, it was really terrible. He was sent flying, but his blood and chi were rolling, and his hands were almost broken. Terrifying. It was really too terrifying. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. Today, he had really met his match. This was only the blind man's attack, but there were four of them. The other three had yet to make their move. And not bad. You were able to block my attack, which means that you have some ability. Although the blind man couldn't see, he could hear everything. What kind of zither song is this? Lin Feng took a deep breath and said, "Ambush from all sides." The blind man said, although he had been blind for many years, he was still full of energy. He couldn't be underestimated. This was an extremely terrifying existence. Ambush from all sides. What a good name. It seems that the four of you have made sufficient preparations. Lin Feng said, "Yes, when we accepted this mission, you were already a dead man." The blind man said, he was very confident, not to mention, even if he couldn't kill Lin Feng, he still had a team. His team. It was very terrifying. Lin Feng took out the ruler's armor and wrapped it around his body. At the same time, Lin Feng was able to communicate with his avatar, the magic lotus, the golden dwarf, and the ruler's armor's power. The power within them continuously flowed into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng's battle strength had reached the peak level. Go to hell! Lin Feng held the black dragon sword and quickly charged towards his opponent. A heart-wrenching song. Where can I find a soulmate in the world? Blind's voice was cold as he plucked the zither again. Clanging sounds shook the void. Streaks of sword chi condensed and slashed towards Lin Feng. Blade storm! Lin Feng couldn't help but roar as he swept out with his sword. Boundless sword chi formed a devastating storm with him as the center. Then, Lin Feng hid within the storm of swords and charged forward at high speed. Blind used the guqin to sweep out the sword chi. They were all sucked into the storm of swords. In the end, it was destroyed by the storm of swords. Sinner's blood emperor. His reputation is well-deserved. Blind said, zither and flute ensemble. The blind man continued. Mute nodded and held the jade flute in his hand. Together with Blind, they played the zither and flute together. They had obviously changed the tune. The tune they changed to was even wilder and more unrestrained, bursting with a terrifying power that left others in awe. Roar! A low roar was heard. Under the combination of the zither and flute, grim reapers with blood-colored demonic blades condensed. Those grim reapers all charged towards Lin Feng. Bang! Along with the violent collision, there was a sudden sound. Lin Feng's storm of swords collided with the attacks of the grim reapers. Lin Feng was once again sent flying. Cough, cough. This time, Lin Feng coughed out a mouthful of blood. Lin Feng even forgot when was the last time he was injured. Assassins of the Blood Prison Dynasty. They were actually so terrifying. Lin Feng finally saw the terror of the Blood Prison Dynasty. What song was that just now? Lin Feng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and asked, Guangling San. Blind said, Guangling San. Lin Feng was surprised. He had heard of Guangling San. It was originally a peerless song, but in your hands, it became a song to kill. Lin Feng said. Blind said, we slightly changed the song. This is called making the best use of everything. What a good, making the best use of everything. I didn't expect that the four of you, neither human nor ghost, had such a deep understanding of music. Lin Feng said indifferently, you're about to die, yet you still dare to mock us. Since that's the case, we'll quickly send you to the Western Paradise. Blind's voice was cold. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zichen's voice fell. He continued to play the zither and flute with mute. Roars were heard again. A large number of grim reapers appeared. Holding blood-colored blades, they charged towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng had just fought with these grim reapers, so he knew how terrifying they were. Facing the attacks of these grim reapers, he didn't dare to be careless. Bell of Hell, come out. Lin Feng waved his hand and summoned the bell. Powerful magic power continuously poured into the Bell of Hell. As for the Hell King Bell, it began to grow bigger and bigger. It didn't take long for the Hell King Bell to become as big as a mountain. Lin Feng carried the Bell of Hell and charged forward. Countless runes on the Bell of Hell flickered. The runes vibrated and emitted a strange power. But when those powers swept across the Grim Reaper's army, then a shocking scene occurred. The Grim Reaper's army, it dissipated quickly. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal a look of joy. As expected of the Bell of Hell, it was the nemesis of these Grim Reapers. Thinking about it, it made sense. The Bell of Hell was a treasure created by the Lord of the Underworld. The Grim Reapers were only one of the main gods in the era of the Underworld titled gods. Back then, they were suppressed by the Lord of the Underworld. Therefore, It wasn't surprising that the Bell of Hell could restrain the Grim Reaper's army. After all, the Grim Reaper's army was just a Grim Reaper's army formed when the zither and flute were played together. It wasn't the real Grim Reaper's army. What treasure is this? Blind asked. Cripple laughed strangely and said, "If I'm not wrong, it should be the legendary Bell of Hell, the treasure of the first Lord of the Underworld." Blind became excited and said, "Good stuff, really good stuff. I've long heard that you have some amazing treasures. Today, we've finally seen it. But these treasures are destined to belong to us. Junior brothers, let's show some of our true skills." "All right." The other three nodded. Blind began to pluck the zither strings. When the first voice rang out, a voice rang out. Lin Feng suddenly felt a slight pain in his heart. Evidently, the attack they had unleashed was a joint attack by those people. Although he didn't know what kind of move it was, it must be many times more terrifying than before. Lin Feng increased his speed, wanting to stop the four assassins. "It's too late. Have a taste of our death, zither." Blind laughed eerily. As soon as he finished speaking, the four assassins all attacked. Blind played the zither. Deaf played the flute. Mute played the flute. In a flash, Lin Feng had the feeling that an invisible and intangible strength was penetrating into his body. His body was sent flying backwards. Chapter 48:30. The Daluo chessboard. Lin Feng was shocked. The method in front of him was very similar to the Daluo chessboard that the Red World Fairy had created. The Daluo chessboard was a world of its own. Once someone was swallowed into it, they would be trapped inside until they died. They would never be able to come out again. Only someone with heaven-defying strength could break the seal of the Daluo chessboard. The Red World Fairy was powerful in this aspect. She had cultivated 3,000 great Daos, and these 3,000 great Daos were only the foundation of her cultivation. The Red World Fairy had created all kinds of peerless magic on the foundation of her cultivation. Even when compared to the supreme existences of the era of titled gods, the magic created by the Red World Fairy was not inferior at all. In this aspect, even Lin Feng was far from being able to compare. However, Lin Feng soon discovered a problem. The world formed by the chessboard was very similar to the Red World Fairy's Daluo chessboard. But to be honest, there was still a big difference between it and the Red World Fairy's Daluo chessboard. The Daluo chessboard contained the Daluo heavens and the will of the Great Tao of Freedom. This will of the Great Tao was actually the Red World Fairy's own will of the Great Tao. However, the method used by this assassin did not have such a will. Apart from that, Lin Feng suddenly thought of the chessboard that he had seen in the assassin's hand before. In that case, the world in front of him was actually created by the chessboard, and not by magic. This was completely different from the chessboard world that the Red World Fairy had created. The Red World Fairy's world was created by magic. "Ha ha ha, kid, you're trapped in my chessboard world. Have you thought about how you're going to die?" The crippled assassin outside the chessboard world laughed proudly. To be able to trap Lin Feng, the Emperor of the Sinner's blood. This was naturally something to be proud of. These four assassins had been working together for many years. So, they were very skilled at working together. They had trapped Lin Feng the moment they attacked. In their view, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. The other three assassins also revealed a grim expression. Next, the problem was how to kill Lin Feng. "Kill him," Blind said. He was the leader of the four. Everyone listened to Blind's instructions. Hearing Blind's words, Cripple nodded. He controlled the chessboards in the chessboard world and attacked Lin Feng. In the world formed by the chessboard, Lin Feng felt that his body was completely imprisoned. It was very difficult for them to move. Therefore, they could only watch as the chessboard, which was as huge as a mountain, flew towards them. Then, kill him. Such a situation was naturally extremely dangerous. Great Tao of Destiny, please send down the power of destiny, and let me pass through this illusory world and return to the real world. Lin Feng began to chant an incantation. After he finished speaking, Yi Zichen's voice fell. A loud, rumbling sound immediately reverberated between heaven and earth. Next, a long river of destiny descended from the sky and swept towards Lin Feng. After Lin Feng was swept up by the long river of destiny, his body regained its mobility. Under the protection of the long river of destiny, Lin Feng flew out. The huge mountain-like chess pieces were all sent flying by the long river of destiny. Not good. Cripple's expression suddenly changed when he saw this scene. Obviously, Cripple did not expect such a thing to happen. He began to seal the void of the chessboard world, wanting to trap Lin Feng. But Lin Feng relied on the terrifying power contained in the long river of destiny to rush out. Great river of destiny, please suppress all the evil in this world. After flying out of the chessboard world, Lin Feng continued to chant an incantation. The long river of destiny immediately flew towards the 4 great assassins. Then, it descended from the sky. Like a Milky Way, it rushed towards the 4 great assassins. Quickly retreat. The expressions of the 4 great assassins couldn't help but change abruptly. The development of the current situation was somewhat beyond their expectations. It was already too late for them to retreat. The long river of destiny directly suppressed the 4 great assassins. Lin Feng took out the Ho Yi Bao and shot up 4 arrows in a row. 4 energy arrows quickly flew towards the 4 great assassins. Puff, 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 puff. The sound of 4 piercing bodies could be heard, but Lin Feng's brows were knitted together because he felt that something seemed to be wrong. Sure enough, the 4 assassins who were shot turned into 4 little puppets. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng knew, just now, the other party used an extremely powerful puppet technique. The ones who died were the 4 puppets. The 4 great assassins appeared 100 meters away. Great destiny technique is that the legendary great destiny technique that you used. Cripple's voice couldn't help but become excited. This guy was rather experienced and knowledgeable. Lin Feng raised his brows slightly and said, "You can see it clearly." Good, good, good. Now, this seat wants to kill you even more. Cripple said, as his voice faded, "Cripple, cripple, cripple, cripple." And the other 3 quickly separated. Cripple stood on the left of Cripple. Cripple stood on Cripple's left. Cripple stood on Cripple's right. And Cripple stood behind Cripple. Then, the 4 of them began to attack Lin Feng again. The rapid sound of the zither, the flute, and the flute completely merged together. The merged sound transformed into an army of the underworld that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Death knights, death gods, Een gods, demon gods, and other terrifying existences all appeared in the army. At the same time, the chessboard in Cripple's hand flew out again. The chessboard quickly became bigger. It blotted out the sky. Then, the surrounding heaven and earth instantly turned into the underworld. That chessboard was very strange. It not only formed a chessboard world, at the same time, it could also create some illusory worlds, such as the underworld created by the creation of the underworld. Moreover, when the illusory underworld was created, Lin Feng was shocked to find that the combat power of the underworld army had increased greatly. The chessboard world created a pair of underworlds that could greatly increase the combat power of the underworld army. The 4 great assassins, they held nothing back. He unleashed his strongest technique. Today, I'll let you experience my power. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He waved his hand. The heavenly drum flew out. Dong, dong, dong. Lin Feng beat the sky drum. After Lin Feng beat the sky drum, behind Lin Feng, immortal clouds rolled and lightning interweaved. An army appeared in the immortal clouds and lightning. Juling Shun, Thunder God, Lightning Mother, heavenly soldiers, and heavenly generals. It was actually an army of the heavenly realm. Kill. Chapter 48:31. In the past, when Lin Feng's cultivation was not so strong, he was already able to use the sky drum to reveal the phantom image of the heaven realm's army. Now, Lin Feng's cultivation had increased greatly. As a result, the power of the sky drum was gradually being released by Lin Feng. The two most powerful aspects of the sky drum were that during a large-scale battle, when the sky drum was beaten, it could buff the soldiers on one side. It would allow them to enter a state of excitement. At that time, the combat strength of the soldiers on one side would be greatly increased. The second use of the sky drum was to summon the phantom image of the heaven realm's army. As his cultivation increased, the phantom image of the heaven realm's army that he could summon would become stronger and stronger, and the phantom image of the heaven realm's army would become more and more solid. As the number one war drum in the heaven realm in the past, the sky drum's power was gradually revealed with the increase of Lin Feng's cultivation. Bang! The heaven realm's army and the underworld's army fought fiercely. The two torrents seemed to be able to destroy the world. The four great assassins' methods were indeed terrifying. But so what? Your methods are terrifying. But I have a treasure. The advantage of having many magic treasures was undoubtedly revealed at this time. There was always a magic treasure that could resolve the crisis. While the Heaven Realm's army and the Underworld's army were fighting, Lin Feng had already charged towards the four great assassins. He rushed in front of the four great assassins. Lin Feng chose to fight in close combat. After all, there were four of them. The power of 6 times the arm of the dragon and elephant instantly erupted. Lin Feng punched towards the blind man. Humph! The blind man snorted coldly. It was obvious that he was extremely confident in close combat. He stretched out his right hand and swept towards Lin Feng's punch. He wanted to block Lin Feng's punch. However, when the blind man's attack swept across Lin Feng's arm, he felt a sudden pain in his wrist. As a result, the power of Lin Feng's arm was too terrifying, and it actually injured his wrist. The blind man knew that he had underestimated Lin Feng's physical combat ability. However, at such a close distance, it was already too late to dodge. Bang! In the next moment, along with the sound of an incomparably violent collision, Lin Feng's powerful punch landed on Blind's chest. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Blind's chest caved in from Lin Feng's punch. Lin Feng's punch just now was too violent. Blind was sent flying. He coughed out a large mouthful of blood in midair. When he fell to the ground, his body convulsed violently. Lin Feng's punch directly took away half of Blind's life. "Get away from him!" Cripple cried out in horror. Lin Feng was too cruel. Cripple was an experienced and knowledgeable person, so he knew how strong Blind's corporeal body was. However, when he faced Lin Feng, he was still crushed by Lin Feng. The gap between them, it was clear at a glance. As such, how would Cripple dare to fight with Lin Feng using his corporeal body? Deaf and Mute were also retreating quickly. However, at this moment, Lin Feng revealed a cold smile. Lin Feng's fangs. It had not been shown just now. Lin Feng waved his hand. 2 evil god stone statues flew out and charged towards Deaf and Mute respectively. Lin Feng charged towards Cripple. When the 2 evil god stone statues were taken out, it was time for Lin Feng to reveal his fangs. Lin Feng's speed was too fast. He instantly arrived in front of Cripple. Cripple shook his wrist. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Densely packed poison needles flew out and shot towards Lin Feng. It was obvious that Cripple had hidden weapons in his sleeves. Cripple suddenly attacked, wanting to catch Lin Feng off guard. However, Lin Feng did not dodge those poison needles. He allowed those poison needles to hit his body. This was because Lin Feng was wearing the ruler's armor. No matter how powerful the poison needles were, they would not be able to penetrate the defense of the ruler's armor. Clang, 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 as expected, the ruler's armor blocked all the poison needles when they struck it, and there was a series of clangs and clangs of impact. Lin Feng used his hand to cover his eyes. The only exposed part of the ruler's armor was the eyes. However, when the poison needles shot towards Lin Feng's arm, they were still bounced off by the ruler's armor. South. At this moment, Cripple actually escaped into the void. Actually, Cripple also knew that using hidden weapons might not be able to kill Lin Feng. He used hidden weapons to deal with Lin Feng to buy himself some time. And he had clearly done it. Cripple hid in the void, wanting to ambush Lin Feng in the dark. Lin Feng sneered. The Assassin Dynasty's concealment technique is useless against me. Lin Feng punched the left side of the room. Bang! A muffled sound of collision rang out. Cripple, who was hidden in the void, was sent flying by Lin Feng's punch. How do you know so much about our Assassin Dynasty's concealment technique? Cripple's face was filled with disbelief. Then he cried out in alarm. You have people in the Assassin Dynasty. Smart people don't live long. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he quickly charged towards Cripple, sending a punch towards him. Cripple was unable to block it, so he crossed his arms in front of him and used the iron chain blockade technique. He wanted to use this to neutralize Lin Feng's tyrannical punch. However, when Lin Feng's punch landed on Cripple's arms, Cripple finally realized how terrifying Lin Feng's punch was. Crack! Crack! His arms were directly broken by Lin Feng's punch. Next, Lin Feng's terrifying punch landed on Cripple's chest. Cripple's chest was also caved in by Lin Feng's punch. Cripple's cultivation wasn't as strong as Blind's. Therefore, after receiving Lin Feng's punch, he was blasted to death. He fell to the ground. He was already dead. On the other side, the two demonic godstone statues had completely suppressed deaf and mute. Lin Feng took out the black dragon sword and walked towards the two with it in his hand. There are many people who want to kill me, but they are destined to be killed by me, including the four of you. Lin Feng arrived behind Deaf and slashed his sword at him. Deaf was shocked and wanted to block Lin Feng's attack, but he was held back by the evil god statues. Thus, he couldn't do anything else. Pooh! In the next moment, Lin Feng chopped off Deaf's head. Then, Lin Feng charged towards Mute. Mute knew that he was going to die, so his body swelled up and he wanted to self-destruct. He wanted to drag Lin Feng down with him. Before Lin Feng arrived, he threw out the black dragon sword in his hand. Pooh! The black dragon sword quickly flew out and pierced through Mute's chest. Blood immediately gushed out from Mute's chest. Mute's swollen body quickly returned to its original state. Chapter 48:32. Huff, huff, huff. Lin Feng took a few deep breaths. He had finally gotten rid of these guys. It was really not easy. These people in front of him were not good people, and each one was stronger than the other. He was really lucky to be able to get rid of them. Of course, sometimes luck also represented strength. Only the blind man was still lingering at death's door. But even though he was blind, he had already suffered a great deal of injuries. His injuries were extremely serious. Therefore, the blind man was no longer a threat. Did you expect this to happen? Lin Feng looked at the blind man and asked, The blind man smiled bitterly and said, "We were too careless. We did not expect that you would have such a method. If we had known earlier, we would have attacked you secretly. That way, our chances of winning would have been higher." Lin Feng said, "There is no medicine for regret in this world. Now, I will take your life." Lin Feng held the black dragon sword and directly cut off the blind man's head. At this point, the 4 great assassins had been killed. After seeing the 4 great assassins being killed, Lin Feng's face could not help but reveal a cold expression. He collected the things of the 4 great assassins and then released the heavenly flame. The 4 great assassins were instantly burned to ashes. Only the source energy was left. Although Lin Feng could not use the source energy of the 4 great assassins, Lin Feng still collected the source energy of the 4 great assassins. Although he could not use it, he could give it to his subordinates or to his women. Lin Feng immediately returned to his residence. I don't know what level these 4 people are in the assassin dynasty. This blood prison assassin dynasty is really too powerful. It seems like I have to be more vigilant. Lin Feng could not help but think to himself. The strength of the assassins of the blood prison assassin dynasty made Lin Feng afraid. Who knew whether or not more terrifying assassins would appear next? Once he provoked these assassins, they would absolutely not let him off. Lin Feng was very clear about this point. When dawn was about to arrive, in the direction of the inland sea, an earth-shattering boom suddenly rang out. Even though they were far away, the cultivators in Whitebone City could hear the loud noise coming from the inland sea. That sound was like the sound of the world collapsing. It also sounded like the sound of stars crushing the starry sky world. That sound was deafening and incomparably ear-piercing. After such a change, many people flew towards the inland sea. Everyone knew that something shocking must have happened in the inland sea. Taoist Wu Liang, Du Zhu, heretic sovereign sage, and the 2 ghost emperors quickly returned to their residences. "What's going on outside?" Taoist Wu Liang asked doubtfully. Lin Feng said, "There were a few reckless killers, but they have already been dealt with." Although Lin Feng said it lightly, everyone knew how dangerous the situation was at that time. Du Zhu said, "Those damned assassins. Next time, we'll destroy their lair." Lin Feng did not dwell on the topic. He said, "Let's head to the inland sea to take a look. I wonder if the changes in the inland sea have anything to do with the Great Bone Hall?" "All right." Taoist Wu Liang and the others nodded. Everyone flew towards the inland sea before the sun had even risen. When they arrived at the outer region of the inland sea, Lin Feng saw a region shrouded in white fog in the depths of the inland sea. That region, it was shrouded in endless mystery. There seemed to be a mysterious world hidden within the white fog. Many cultivators flew towards it, wanting to enter the world of white fog to explore and see what was inside. Lin Feng and the others entered as well. Not long after, shocking news spread that a demonic hand had appeared inside. The demonic hand was very special. It had a complete consciousness and was very powerful. The demonic hand was besieged by many top factions. Some people even used ancient weapons to suppress the demonic hand. Lin Feng was shocked when he heard the news. He thought of the demonic hand that had escaped from the Undying clan in the mundane world. Lin Feng did not know who the demonic hand was in its past life. He only knew that the demonic hand was dismembered by the 7 Undying sages. However, the demonic hand's owner had the ability to be undying. Therefore, the 7 Undying sages could only suppress the demonic hand's body in different places. Later, when he went to the mundane world's Undying clan, he released the demonic hand. Lin Feng remembered that before he parted ways with the demonic hand, it said that it wanted to find its body. It hoped that one day it would be able to reform its body. However, he did not know if the demonic hand that appeared in the inland sea was the same demonic hand that he knew. Lin Feng carefully inquired about the demonic hand. Soon, Lin Feng was sure that the demonic hand that was besieged by many major factions was indeed the demonic hand that he knew. It's said that people from that clan have moved out to deal with the demonic hand. They want to suppress it. Someone whispered, "That clan? Which clan?" Some people were puzzled. They did not know which clan the other party had killed was from. That clan that can't be mentioned. It's said that that clan created the undying world. That cultivator said. Many people's expressions changed slightly. They knew which clan that cultivator was talking about. It was said that the undying world's name was derived from the undying clan. The undying world was created by the experts of the undying clan. However, no one knew why the undying world left the undying world. No one knew where the undying clan went. There were rumors that the undying clan was driven out by the combined forces of many major factions. However, many people felt that this was not the case. There was definitely a reason why the undying clan left the undying world. However, this matter was destined to be a mystery to outsiders. Previously, I heard that the clan was already on the verge of collapse. Their strength had dropped tremendously. Now, it seems that this is not the case. A cultivator said, "This rumor is simply nonsense. That clan is still incomparably terrifying. It's said that the expert that came to the undying world was a quasi-sage. Moreover, he came with an ancient weapon. One can imagine how terrifying that person is." A cultivator said, "What? A quasi-sage? Isn't that an existence similar to the celestial arch? An expert of this level with an ancient weapon should be able to fight against a sage, right?" A cultivator exclaimed. Chapter 48:33. The cultivator who spoke first said, "That's why I said that the power is still terrifying, but they left the undying realm for some unknown reason. If they didn't leave the undying realm might be in a different state. I heard that the powerhouse is called Yuan Zishuan, a direct descendant of that family. After he came, many people went to build a relationship with him, including many of the top families in the undying realm." Another cultivator, who knew some inside information, said, "Building a relationship with such a powerhouse is beneficial for oneself and the power behind one. But I don't know why he chased after that demonic hand." Someone voiced out their doubts. "That's not clear. He must have his own reasons." Lin Feng knew how to use clairaudience. Thus, he could hear all kinds of voices. He frowned slightly because the arrival of a quasi-sage powerhouse from the undying clan wasn't a good thing for him. Although Lin Feng also had the undying bloodline, their bloodline had completely drawn a line with the undying clan ever since ancestor Lin Qi, especially after ancestor Lin Qi ruled the world. The undying seven saints were so shocked that they knelt and begged ancestor Lin Qi not to exterminate the undying clan. This matter was remembered by the undying clan and was treated as a disgrace by the undying clan. So, the undying clan hated his bloodline very much. Back then, ancestor Lin Qi still cared about his reputation and didn't exterminate the undying clan. After all, Lin Qi grew up in the undying clan. It was just that the undying clan viewed him as a cripple, but they didn't expect that the person with the highest achievement in the history of the undying clan was someone they viewed as a cripple. Lin Feng couldn't comment on the fact that the ancestor didn't exterminate the undying clan. After all, this was the ancestor's choice. As a junior, it was disrespectful to comment on the ancestor's actions. But now, Lin Feng was facing a very serious situation. For example, the grudge between his bloodline and the Undying Clan. If the Undying Clan's experts were to find out about him, the Undying Clan's experts would not mind killing him. Moreover, Lin Feng felt that his family members who were captured should be in the hands of the Undying Clan. Of course, he wanted to save his grandfather, uncles, brothers, sisters, and other relatives. But Lin Feng also knew that with his current strength, it was not enough to save them. So now, he still had to lay low and not clash with the experts of the Undying Clan too early. Lin Feng and the others continued flying. A large number of cultivators followed them. All of a sudden, all news was spread everywhere. News of the white fog world. But there was also news of the Devil's Hand. In the past few days, Devil Hand had already engaged in several battles with a group of experts led by the Undying Clan. The Demon Hand was nearly suppressed several times, but in the end, the Demon Hand managed to escape. It is precisely because that hand is too frightening that the Undying Clan is scheming to get rid of that demonic hand. Think about it. If the Devil's Hand were to reconstruct its body, what kind of terrifying thing would happen? Following that, another cultivator said. What this cultivator said was indeed very reasonable. If the Devil's Hand was destroyed, there might not be the possibility of reconstructing its body. If the Devil's Hand was not destroyed, there was still the possibility of reconstructing its body. At that time, no one knew what kind of terrifying thing would happen. Perhaps even the Undying Clan was afraid. There weren't many things that could make this kind of clan afraid. But in the end, there was still something. On this day, Lin Feng, Daoist Wu Liang, and the others were resting on a small island. A cultivator flew over from afar. It was a cultivator who looked to be in his 30s. At first glance, there was nothing special about him. However, Lin Feng felt his blood flowing quickly. His expression changed slightly as he hurriedly suppressed his bloodline. He tried his best not to reveal any flaws. However, when the cultivator flew over the island, he couldn't help but frown. What a familiar aura. Is it the aura of the Undying bloodline? The cultivator couldn't help but mutter to himself. The cultivator stopped and didn't leave. He flew towards the island. Let's hurry up and leave this place, Lin Feng said. However, they couldn't leave. The cultivator blocked Lin Feng and the other's path. To be precise, he blocked Lin Feng's path. Are you the abandoned descendant of the Undying Clan? The cultivator looked at Lin Feng and asked, "Who are you?" Lin Feng asked back. The cultivator laughed faintly and said, "You have guts to speak to me in such a tone. However, seeing that you also have the Undying bloodline, I'll forgive you this time. Remember, my name is Yuan Zishuan." When he heard this name, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. It turned out that this person was the quasi-sage of the Undying Clan. This person looked so young. However, his cultivation was so terrifying. It was really unbelievable. Daoist Wu Liang and the others were also shocked. At this moment, their expressions were very serious. This was because they knew of the grudge between Lin Feng and the main bloodline of the Undying Clan. If this person knew Lin Feng's identity, he definitely wouldn't let Lin Feng go. "Don't worry, I won't kill you. Although you're a descendant of the abandoned bloodline, I won't kill those with the Undying bloodline. However, if the other cultivators of the Undying Clan want to kill you, then I won't care. So, you'll have to pray for yourself," Yuan Zishuan said. He didn't stay for long and flew into the distance. Lin Feng guessed that he was now looking for the Devil Hand. After Yuan Zishuan left, Lin Feng let out a long breath. Yuan Zishuan was really too scary. The pressure he gave off was too great. As expected of a quasi-sage, when such an existence made a move, who knew what kind of terrifying momentum it would cause? Lin Feng guessed. Ordinary true immortals. They might not even be able to withstand one move from Yuan Zixuan. Go, 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 Lin Feng said anxiously. He couldn't stay here any longer. He had to leave quickly so that Yuan Zixuan couldn't find him. If Yuan Zixuan came back to his senses, he might come looking for him. Lin Feng, the boundless holy man, Du Zhu, the heretic holiness holy man, and the two ghost emperors left quickly. Yuan Zixuan continued to search for the devil hand. Something's not right. Yuan Zixuan frowned. Yuan Zixuan couldn't help but frown. There seems to be something off about that brat. He seems to have a hidden bloodline in him. The immortal bloodline is very domineering. Ordinary bloodlines can't appear in the same person unless the person has another bloodline that is as powerful as the immortal bloodline. That kid doesn't seem to be an ordinary descendant of the abandoned bloodline. Could he be? Yuan Zixuan thought of a very special person. Before leaving, the higher-ups of the clan had told him to find this person and bring him back to the clan. This person was called Lin Feng. At this moment, Yuan Zixuan connected the abandoned bloodline descendant with Lin Feng. Chapter 48-34. When Yuan Zixuan arrived at the island, he discovered that Lin Feng was nowhere to be seen. Clearly, Lin Feng had left. Yuan Zixuan raised his brows slightly. Interesting, very interesting. However, you won't be able to escape. Perhaps we'll meet again soon. But even if we don't, I'll still be able to find you, Sinner's Emperor Lin Feng. The next time we meet, you won't be so lucky. At that time, you'll become my prisoner. Yuan Zixuan said with a faint smile. He did not stay any longer and quickly left. The Undying clan has been unimaginably terrifying since ancient times. It's truly tragic to have a grudge with them. Taoist Wuliang sighed. How much do you know about the Undying clan? Lin Feng asked. I don't know much about it, but I do know a little about them. Taoist Wuliang said. Where's the main branch of the Undying clan? Lin Feng asked. Taoist Wuliang said. That's hard to say. The celestial world? Chaos bound of Xianhuang? Or some other place? But it should be in one of those places. Lin Feng stroked his chin and said, why did the Undying clan leave the Undying world back then? In their opinion, the Undying world's potential has already limited the clan's development, so they gave up on it. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. No matter what, the Undying world is still a quasi-paramount world. To give it up just like that, how bold! Taoist Wuliang said. That's why the Undying clan was an extremely extraordinary clan back then, whether it was the clan's disciples or the clan's leader. Of course, the Undying clan was also a ruthless clan. Even when facing their own clansmen, when it was time to kill, they would show no mercy. Lin Feng asked, what do you think of the Undying clan's current strength? They have a sage overseeing them. Taoist Wuliang said. In truth, Lin Feng had already guessed this possibility. Taoist Wuliang added, and there's more than one such expert. Lin Feng said, what does this power rely on to remain standing? Could it be the foundation of the 7 Undying sages? Taoist Wuliang said, the Undying 7 saints are the pinnacle of the Undying clan in this epoch. However, the Undying clan isn't a clan from this epoch. They existed many epochs ago. Do you think a clan that can transcend epochs is so simple? His foundation is unimaginable. Do you know why your ancestor, Lin Qi, let the Undying clan off? Do you really think that because the Undying 7 saints begged Lin Qi for mercy, Lin Qi's heart softened and he released the Undying clan? That's not really the case. Lin Qi is such a decisive person. Will you give up on killing him just because he begs for mercy? Lin Feng couldn't help but frown at Taoist Wu Liang's repeated questions. It seems that before, he had thought too simply of the situation. Du Zhu said, "In that case, the Undying Clan has a foundation that Lin Qi is afraid of." Taoist Wu Liang nodded. "Yes, they have a foundation that Lin Qi is afraid of. A clan that transcends epochs and has transcended epochs multiple times. At the very least, I don't know what kind of foundation such a huge clan has. Only the highest echelons of the clan are aware of the existence of their foundation. Even the ordinary upper echelons of the clan don't know about it. That's why I'm guessing that Lin Qi didn't make a move back then, because he knew that once he did, the Undying Clan would bring out their foundation. At that time, both sides would suffer great losses. Naturally, Lin Qi didn't want to see such an outcome." Lin Feng took a deep breath and said, "I didn't expect the Undying Clan to be so powerful." Taoist Wu Liang said, "Actually, there's another reason why the Undying Clan is so powerful." "What's the reason?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "It's because of their descendants," Taoist Wu Liang said. "What do you mean?" Lin Feng asked. Taoist Wu Liang said, "The stronger the living being, the harder it is for them to have descendants. That's why many powerful clans have appeared in history. However, those powerful clans have gradually disappeared. However, the Undying Clan has solved the problem of having descendants with powerful bloodlines. That's why the Undying Clan has more descendants. This is also one of the main reasons why the Undying Clan has never declined." Lin Feng said, "Indeed, the stronger the bloodline, the stronger the living being, the harder it is for them to have descendants. To be able to solve the problem of descendants, this clan can indeed continue to prosper." Lin Feng actually had a deep understanding of this matter. After so many years, Lin Feng had also experienced many women. However, among all of Lin Feng's women, none of them had gotten pregnant. This was enough to explain the problem. Just like the Dragon Clan, they might only be able to give birth to a descendant after hundreds or thousands of years. It was because the Dragon Clan's bloodline was powerful. Another example was some of the top experts in the world of cultivators. They would usually live millions of years or even tens of millions of years before giving birth to a descendant. Why was that? It was also because their bloodline was powerful. Giving birth to a descendant, it was very difficult, Taoist Wu Liang said. Therefore, if you can avoid provoking a power like the Undying Clan, then try your best not to provoke them. At the very least, don't provoke them before you completely grow up. When you are strong enough, you will have the ability to wrestle with them. When you go to the main bloodline of the Undying Clan, at that time, the main bloodline of the Undying Clan can only obey you. Just like your ancestor, Lin Qi. Although he did not make a move against the Undying Clan, he also shocked the Undying Clan so much that they did not dare to make a move against him. However, our bloodline is still gradually declining. Lin Feng sighed and said, "This is very normal. Unless we can solve the problem of descendants, it is indeed very easy for us to decline. Look at how many amazing existences have appeared in history. They rose rapidly. When they were alive, the clans they created were so powerful. However, after they died, the forces they left behind would quickly decline until they completely disappeared. This is because there is a problem with the bloodline inheritance. However, a terrifying clan like the Undying Clan has a long history and has always been very prosperous. The true power that can be passed down through the ages should be the top power that has solved the problem of descendants." Chapter 48:35. After hearing so much from Taoist Wu Liang, Lin Feng had a more comprehensive understanding of the Undying Clan. These top forces were indeed terrifying. Perhaps only those who had reached ancestor Lin Chi's tyrannical cultivation would have the chance to talk to the Undying clan on equal terms. If it were other cultivators, they wouldn't have such qualifications at all. Lin Feng had always been a person who refused to admit defeat. His fighting spirit was very high. Therefore, after knowing the terror of the Undying clan, not only was Lin Feng not frightened, but his fighting spirit was even more exuberant. Of course, Lin Feng also knew that to increase his strength, it wasn't something that could be done overnight. To increase one's strength, one needed to accumulate over time. Now that the world of white fog had appeared, would there be opportunities inside? If the White Bone Palace was really inside the world of white fog, Lin Feng felt that there might be amazing opportunities inside. In the next few days, Lin Feng received some news one after another. It was said that Yuan Zixuan and the others had found the Devil Hand. Then, they fought the Devil Hand again. The Devil Hand was defeated again. Moreover, its injuries were getting worse and worse. However, it still escaped in the end and entered the depths of the world of white fog. Yuan Zixuan and the others chased after it. However, that place wasn't a place that everyone could enter because it was said that there were unknown dangers hidden in the world of white fog. Entering the world of white fog, the slightest carelessness could lead to death. Many cultivators who took the risk to enter fell one after another. There were also some cultivators who retreated from it. Those cultivators had an incomparably terrified expression. They had experienced something terrifying. However, they didn't see any living creatures. However, many cultivators died miserably in front of them. Everything was strange. You really didn't see anything? Someone asked unwillingly. I really didn't see anything, but there were strange sounds coming from the white fog. Then, the rolling white fog surged. Many cultivators who were swallowed by the white fog eventually lost their flesh and blood, leaving only blood-stained skeletons behind as they fell into the sea. A cultivator said, "This scene was simply too bizarre. Because no living creatures appeared, those cultivators died, tragically just like that. Anyone who saw this scene would feel their hair stand on end." It was then that one of the cultivators asked, "Could there be something terrifying hidden within the white mist?" No, nothing can be hidden in the white fog because the white fog is not dense and is very thin. No matter what is hidden, it can be seen. But we didn't see anything. It was just a thin white mist rolling and swallowing the lives of those cultivators. This was an unbearable memory. Fortunately, these cultivators managed to survive. So they rejoiced. The few surviving cultivators decided to leave. After experiencing the danger from before, they didn't want to continue exploring the white fog world for any opportunities. Now, they just wanted to go home and have a good rest. Then, they would try their best to adjust their state of mind. Oh my God, look! Suddenly, a cultivator cried out in horror. More than one cultivator cried out in fear. The cultivators all pointed in a certain direction. Everyone looked over, and their expressions changed abruptly. The surviving cultivators who had left together had met with disaster. Their flesh and blood had disappeared at an unknown time. To be more precise, they had been eaten by something at an unknown time, leaving only blood-stained skeletons behind. Those skeletons had fallen into the sea. What happened? Did anyone see it? A cultivator asked. Many cultivators shook their heads, not knowing what had happened. At this time, a cultivator said with a trembling voice, "I saw it." When they left, they were still whispering something. Perhaps they were talking about their trip to the white fog world. But in the next moment, their flesh and blood disappeared in an instant, and they turned into blood-stained skeletons. Flesh and blood disappeared in an instant. Many people frowned. They felt that the word instantaneous was really hard to believe and accept. The cultivator said, They really disappeared in an instant. I've been watching them all this time, from living creatures to blood-stained skeletons. It only took an instant. Many people's expressions turned ugly. This was too strange, wasn't it? How did their flesh and blood disappear? Some people fished up the skeletons of the dead cultivators. Then they carefully observed them, but unfortunately, they did not find anything special. It was as if the other party had really died all of a sudden. This kind of situation was really extremely strange. At this time, a cultivator said, "Could it be a curse?" The mysterious and strange curse might be able to do all of this. That's right, it must be a curse. Those people were affected by the power of the curse, which is why they were killed. Someone else said, when people encounter unknown things, they are always used to finding reasons to explain these things. For example, right now, everything was still unknown, but some people already felt that this was caused by the power of the curse. Moreover, more and more people agreed with this idea. Lin Feng frowned. He did not know if he should think that this was caused by some kind of curse. However, Lin Feng was very clear about one thing. The white fog world was truly terrifying. Without powerful means, it was simply impossible to enter. One had to have a powerful cultivation base or a powerful magic treasure or some special means. If ordinary cultivators entered, it would be no different from sending themselves to their deaths. However, even if they knew that it was dangerous, there were still people who entered. The other party was clearly skilled and bold. For example, Lin Feng saw young Master Shuiyu, young Master Mingyue, young Master Xingyu, and the others enter one after another. Lin Feng also saw Muyasi and the others enter. It seemed that she had come out of seclusion. Of course, Lin Feng also huang Huangfu Qingtian, Dongguang's son, and the others enter. Lin Feng also saw the woman, Great Demon Yu. She was as beautiful as ever. She was even more charming than before. That was because she had lost her virginity. She had become an even more charming young woman. Lin Feng naturally felt a little guilty when he saw her. Fortunately, she did not see him. Lin Feng was certain if she saw him, she would definitely not hesitate to chop him to death with a machete. After staying outside for a while, she also entered the white fog world. Chapter 48:36. Let's go in and take a look. Lin Feng said. He took the lead and flew into the white fog world. Taoist Wu Liang, Du Zhu, evil sovereign sage, and the two ghost emperors also flew into the white fog world. Inside the white fog world, there was a very strange energy. After feeling the strange energy, Zhang Xian was shocked. Lin Feng could not help but frown slightly. That strange energy made him feel extremely uncomfortable. This place was indeed full of strangeness. Du Zhu said, "This place makes me feel flustered." Just as Du Zhu's voice fell, there was a scream in front of them. When they heard the scream in front of them, Lin Feng and the others sped up and flew forward. When they arrived, they only saw more than 10 blood-colored skeletons floating in the sea. The way they died was exactly the same as the cultivators outside. Just now, these people were not particularly far from Lin Feng and the others. However, because of the fog, Lin Feng and the others did not see how these people died. We can't waste people's things when they're dead. Taoist Wu Liang said as he took the storage rings of the cultivators. This guy liked to take the wealth of the dead. This kind of wealth came easily. No one came to find trouble with him, thought Lin Feng while scratching his chin. A moment before, after those horrible shrieks, those people had all died. The whole thing was very strange. This was the most strange thing. In this place, apart from the auras of the dead cultivators, Lin Feng did not sense anyone else's aura. Even if some unknown creature killed them, there should be some aura left. After all, time was short. the aura would not disappear so quickly. Lin Feng said, "Let's go. Let's leave this place quickly." The others nodded. This place indeed made everyone feel uneasy, so they did not want to stay here. Therefore, everyone quickly flew into the depths. After Lin Feng and the others left, the white fog in the area actually rolled, and there seemed to be a strange sound coming from the white fog. Rumble, rumble, rumble. An hour later, Lin Feng and the others heard a rumbling sound. A gigantic battleship was approaching them. After seeing the warship, Lin Feng, Taoist Wu Liang, and Duzu all cursed at the same time. Idiot! How could they be so ostentatious in such a place? Were they afraid of danger and didn't take the initiative to come to them? Ba Ji Palace's warship, the evil dominator saint said. Lin Feng nodded and asked, "I wonder if young Master Mingyue is on the warship. What do you think? Could it be that he wanted to kill young Master Mingyue? This young Master Ming Yu has hidden himself very deeply. It won't be easy to get rid of him." Lin Feng was naturally aware of this, but Lin Feng still wanted to give it a try. Young Master Mingyue was a formidable enemy, and it might be easier to kill him now. If young Master Mingyu were to raise his cultivation base to the true immortal realm, it would be much more difficult to kill him. Lin Feng was naturally aware of this. However, the Ba Ji Palace's warship suddenly changed direction and flew in another direction. In the blink of an eye, it had already flown far away. This scene left Lin Feng and the rest dumbfounded. Taoist Wu Liang said, "It seems that young Master Mingyu isn't on the warship. Otherwise, that warship wouldn't have avoided us so quickly." Clearly, the people on the warship had already seen Lin Feng. Moreover, they recognized Lin Feng. Without a peak expert like young Master Mingyu, they naturally didn't dare to provoke Lin Feng and quickly fled. Lin Feng recalled seeing young Master Mingyu, young Master Shuiyu, and young Master Xingyu enter the world of white fog together. At that time, there was a large group of people following them. Now, it seemed that those people weren't the same group as the ones on the Ba Ji Palace's warship. Lin Feng didn't chase after them. They were just a bunch of insignificant people. Lin Feng didn't care about them. About a day had passed. Lin Feng and the rest saw a warship floating above the ocean. When they got closer, they realized that it was the same warship they had seen before. The Ba Ji Palace's flag was still fluttering. It was truly fate. They actually met again here. Something doesn't seem right. This warship is too quiet. It's deathly quiet. Taoist Wu Liang quickly noticed that something was amiss. Then he said, Lin Feng also noticed that something was amiss. He said, "Come, let's go take a look." Everyone nodded and increased their speed, catching up to the ancient warship floating in front of them. Then, they boarded the ancient warship. There was nothing above or below the huge deck. Thus, Lin Feng and the rest walked inside. When they arrived at the cabin, Lin Feng discovered that there was a restriction sealing the entrance. The aura of the restriction here was very similar to the restriction on the warship. Thus, Lin Feng guessed that the restriction here was activated by the Ba Ji Palace's cultivators. Are they trying to use the restriction to prevent something from entering? Duzu asked with a frown. Taoist Wu Liang said, "That should be the case. What's puzzling is that the restriction here is very well preserved. Since it's so well preserved, the people inside should be fine. Why is there no movement at all?" Lin Feng said, "Open the restriction and enter to take a look. We'll know then." Next, Lin Feng removed the restriction outside and entered the cabin with Taoist Wu Liang and the rest. After entering the cabin, Lin Feng suddenly smelled a foul stench. Lin Feng then saw a pile of bones lying on the ground. There were many skeletons lying on the ground. There were too many skeletons piled up together. and the sea was very humid. Thus, the foul stench was emitted. They died in the same way as those people from before. What the hell happened? The restriction here isn't broken. Since it's not broken, why did these people die? Taoist Wu Liang voiced out his doubts. However, Taoist Wu Liang no longer cared about the cause of this matter. He directly walked toward the pile of corpses. Next, he took off the storage rings on the corpses' hands. Duzu and the rest hurriedly went to take the storage rings as well. Lin Feng was the only one who didn't touch the storage rings of the dead. Lin Feng didn't care about their belongings. Lin Feng walked around the cabin. He saw a passage that led to the bottom. At this moment, Lin Feng suddenly heard a faint sound coming from the cabin below. Chapter 48:37. Something's wrong. Lin Feng was shocked. He quickly went to the lower level. When Lin Feng arrived at the bottom of the mountain, something suddenly threw itself at him. Lin Feng quickly dodged and realized that it was a woman. Dead. They're all dead. They're all dead. The woman seemed to have gone mad. She pounced on Lin Feng again. Wu Liang Taoist, Du Zhu, evil sovereign sage, and the two ghost emperors also heard the commotion and came to the lower level of the ship. At this time, Lin Feng restrained the woman. Then, he restrained the woman. There's actually still a survivor. Wu Liang Taoist said. Lin Feng nodded. Then, he looked at the woman, who seemed to have gone mad. At this time, he realized that the woman's appearance was not bad. She looked very delicate, but it was a pity that she was now crazy. What's your name? Lin Feng looked at the woman and asked, trying to communicate with her. However, the woman kept murmuring, all dead, all dead, all dead. It seemed that the woman had suffered a great shock. How did she survive? Lin Feng was extremely puzzled. It seems that we can't get anything useful out of her. However, a human soul is the most real thing. Since we can't get anything out of her, we can try to search her soul. Wu Liang Taoist said. Lin Feng also had the same plan. He tried to search her soul. However, just as Lin Feng was searching her soul, she turned into a blood-stained skeleton. Everything was too sudden. It was so sudden that Lin Feng was caught off guard. Let's go out and take a look, Lin Feng said. He felt that something was about to happen. Obviously, it was an extremely bad feeling. Lin Feng went out. The cabin was still emitting a fishy smell. Lin Feng didn't stay in the cabin. Instead, he went outside to the deck. Wu Liang Taoist and the others also followed him outside. After arriving outside, Lin Feng saw that the surrounding white fog was rolling. They had already surrounded the warship. In a world of white fog, it was not strange to see white fog, because there was white fog everywhere. However, the white fog in other places was different from the white fog in front of him. The white fog in other places floated quietly in the air. However, the white fog that surrounded the warship was tumbling violently. The situation before his eyes was extremely strange. He's here, Duzu said solemnly. Previously, they had already heard of some things that happened in the world of white fog. The white fog churned, and people turned into blood-stained skeletons. Now, they were about to face the same thing. It was impossible to say that he wasn't nervous or worried. After all, in this world, the unknown was the scariest, and the situation before their eyes was something unknown to them. Lin Feng tried to use his divine consciousness to probe the rolling white fog. However, he found that his divine consciousness disappeared in an instant. His face turned slightly pale. What a strange and terrifying white fog. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. This is troublesome. Wu Liang Taoist frowned. He rarely encountered such a troublesome situation. However, the white fog that appeared today was too strange. It made him feel helpless. Let me see if the heavenly flame can cause damage to the white fog, Lin Feng said. Then he took out the heavenly flame. The heavenly flame was very terrifying. It instantly ignited the white fog. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but feel happy. The fact that the heavenly flame could cause damage to the white fog gave everyone hope of breaking out of the encirclement. At that moment, strange cries came from the rolling white fog. When he heard those cries, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. This was because he didn't see anything in the white fog. Moreover, the white fog was so thin that it should be impossible for any living thing to be hiding in it. However, what was going on? How did the cries from the white fog come from? There was something fishy about all of this. At that moment, a large amount of white fog surged toward Lin Feng and the others. Wu Liang Daoist said, I know. What do you know? Lin Feng looked at Wu Liang Daoist and asked, The white fog? Actually, it's not white fog at all. I thought of a kind of living thing called the white fogworm. I saw it in a Taoist scripture. It said that the white fogworm looks very similar to the white fog, but it has an undying and indestructible body. If you see a white fogworm, it's best to run away quickly because it's extremely dangerous to be entangled by one. The white fogworm likes to drill into the body of its target, then densely cover every inch of the target's flesh and blood, instantly eating the target's flesh. Wu Liang Daoist said, But even if it eats the target's flesh and blood, the white fogworm should still be able to see it. But when that female cultivator was eaten, we didn't see anything other than her skeleton. Lin Feng said doubtfully, That's because after the white fogworm eats flesh and blood, its body will instantly turn transparent, just like air. It won't return to normal until the white fogworm consumes the flesh and blood it devours. Wu Liang Daoist said, Isn't this white fogworm too strange? Let's break out of this encirclement quickly. Du Zhu said with a gloomy face. Wu Liang Daoist said with a bitter smile, The white fogworm is everywhere. Trying to break out is simply a pipe dream. Then what do? We can't just wait here to die, right? Du Zhu said. Wu Liang Daoist's face was also gloomy. He was thinking of a solution. Lin Feng said, I have an idea. Maybe we can try it. Hearing Lin Feng's words, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. Lin Feng summoned the Devil King bug. The Devil King bug floated in the air and made a strange sound. When they saw the Devil King bug, the white fogworms immediately stopped. Screech, however, before Lin Feng and the others could let out a sigh of relief, an ear-piercing sound rang out. After hearing the ear-piercing sound, the white fogworms stopped moving. The white fog insects started moving again. They surrounded Lin Feng and the others again. The strangest thing was that as the heavenly fire burned, more and more white fogworms appeared. Not only did the heavenly fire not burn the white fogworms to death, but it also seemed to cause the white fogworms to quickly split into even more white fogworms. When Lin Feng saw that, he couldn't help but be astonished. Those white fog insects were too strange. He quickly recalled his celestial fire. Chapter 48:38. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. For sure. My great youth has just begun. I don't want to die. Taoist Wu Liang wailed loudly. Lin Feng's face was also extremely ugly. The current situation was indeed very bad for them. If they could not solve the situation in front of them, they might really die here. Everyone was very clear about this. At this extremely dangerous moment, suddenly, a flute sound drifted over from afar. When the sound of the flute was heard, the swarm of white mist bugs that were charging towards them suddenly changed direction. Those white mist bugs quickly flew in the direction of the flute sound. When he saw this scene, Lin Feng's face could not help but reveal a shocked expression. Taoist Wu Liang said in surprise, "There's really a way out." It seems like things are about to take a turn. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Let's go over and take a look, Lin Feng said. The few of them quickly flew in the direction of the flute sound. Not long after, they saw a woman wearing beast skin. The woman's beast skin clothes only covered part of her body. For example, her slender waist and long legs were exposed. Her skin was wheat-colored and looked very healthy. She was tall and had a charming face. However, she exuded a wild aura, just like a little wild cat. The woman held a gourd in her hand. No one knew what treasure it was. Those white mist bugs all flew into the gourd. Not long after, those white mist bugs were swallowed by the gourd in the woman's hand. Seems like someone from the barbarian tribe, Taoist Wu Liang, said. There were barbarians in the Timu continent as well as in the undying world. The barbarians were very similar to humans. However, their physiques were stronger and their personalities were more valiant. The barbarians were good at witchcraft. Therefore, the barbarians' methods were often more strange. However, no one dared to underestimate the barbarians. This race was very terrifying, whether it was in the mortal world or in the undying world. The barbarians were an exceptionally terrifying race. This race, they held unimaginable power. For example, the barbarian woman in front of everyone was really powerful. Such a terrifying white mist worm had been collected by her. He had no idea why she had collected the white mist worms. Thank you for your help, Fairy. Lin Feng cupped his fists and said. The woman from the barbarian race giggled and said, I'm not a fairy and I'm not trying to save you. I'm just trying to collect the white fog bugs to refine pills. Hearing this, Taoist Wu Liang's eyes lit up and he asked, What kind of pill are you refining? What? Are you interested? The barbarian woman looked at Taoist Wu Liang and asked. Taoist Wu Liang naturally knew that the elixir refined by the other party was absolutely extraordinary. It should be an elixir that would greatly benefit one's cultivation. So he nodded and said, Of course I'm interested. I don't lack money, so we can discuss the price. Hee, but what if I don't want to sell it to you? The barbarian woman said with a smile. Taoist Wu Liang revealed a gloomy expression. After saying so much, he had still been played by the barbarian woman in the end. Lin Feng asked, How should I address you? Why are you asking for my name? Are you trying to hit on me? The barbarian woman looked at Lin Feng with a smile. The barbarians had always been bold and unrestrained. They did not understand what it meant to be reserved. If it were a woman from another race, they would naturally not say such words directly. However, the barbarian woman did not care about such things. If there was something in her heart, she would say it directly. There was nothing to be embarrassed about. Of course, Lin Feng had no intention of hitting on the barbarian woman at the moment. He only wanted to know her identity. After all, Lin Feng was a person who knew how to repay kindness. The barbarian woman had said that she was only collecting the white fog bugs and not helping Lin Feng and the others. However, Lin Feng and the others had indeed escaped because of the barbarian woman collecting the white fog bugs. Lin Feng naturally wanted to find an opportunity to repay the barbarian woman. However, the barbarian woman's brain was clearly wired differently from that of other races. As a man, how could he lose his momentum in front of a woman? Therefore, Lin Feng said, Your figure and face are not bad. If you want me to hit on you, of course I don't mind hitting on you. I am the goddess of countless barbarian cultivators. There are many people who want to hit on me. You'll have to line up. The barbarian woman was as hot and bold as ever. After saying this, she quickly flew into the distance. In the blink of an eye, she had already disappeared without a trace. In the following period of time, Lin Feng and the others did not encounter any more white fog bugs. They did not know if they had all been collected by the barbarian woman, except for the barbarian woman. Perhaps there were other barbarian cultivators collecting the white fog bugs. If that was the case, the white fog bugs might indeed be facing a disaster. Half a month later, Lin Feng and the others arrived at the depths of the white fog world. When they arrived, they saw an island. At this moment, many cultivators were flying towards the island. Lin Feng and the others also flew towards the island. Space-time power. When they approached the island, Lin Feng could not help but cry out in surprise. This was because he had already felt the space-time power in front of him. Fortunately, the space-time power was not violent. The space-time power enveloped the entire island. At this moment, the space-time power that enveloped the island seemed to have sensed the aura of Lin Feng and the others. Therefore, the space-time power quickly surged over. Lin Feng and the others were wrapped in it. The space-time power was too strong. It instantly pulled Lin Feng and the others towards the island. Lin Feng felt as if the world was spinning. He even felt as if his body was about to be torn apart by the powerful space-time power. This feeling was really terrible. However, in the next moment, the pain disappeared and Lin Feng was sent flying. He fell into the forest. Lin Feng got up from the ground. However, he found that he was the only one around. There was no one else. Taoist Wu Liang, Du Zhu, Evil Lord Saint, and the two ghost emperors were all thrown somewhere by the space-time power. And at this moment, a ferocious beast jumped out of the forest. This ferocious beast was about 5 to 6 meters tall. When he saw this ferocious beast, Lin Feng could not help but reveal a surprised expression. Because of this ferocious beast. Chapter 48:39. This dragon was extremely strange. It looked like an earth dragon, but at the same time, it didn't look like one. The reason why this dragon looked like an earth dragon was because it looked similar to an earth dragon. The reason why this dragon didn't look like an earth dragon was because its aura was different from an earth dragon. There were some powerful dragons within the earth dragon race, such as the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Tyrannosaurus Rex. However, even though those dragons were extremely powerful, the earth dragon was a dragon race with a lower level of life. Even for the powerful Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Tyrannosaurus Rex, their life aura was still that of a lower-level dragon race. However, this dragon that appeared before Lin Feng's eyes, even though it looked like an infant, its life aura was extremely noble. Lin Feng could even sense the powerful dragon bloodline within its body. This was clearly not something that an earth dragon could compare to. Roar! After a brief moment of silence, the dragon race living being let out a low growl and pounced towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng waved his robes. A powerful force swept across the body of this dragon race living being. Then, this dragon race living being was sent flying by Lin Feng. After receiving Lin Feng's attack, Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. The dragon race living being let out a painful cry. In reality, Lin Feng did not use much strength. If Lin Feng had wanted to kill this dragon race living being, that blow would have been enough to kill this dragon race living being instantly. When this dragon race living being saw how powerful Lin Feng was, it turned around and ran. Lin Feng did not chase after it either. He allowed this dragon race living being to escape. Just then, a sharp, ear-piercing cry rang out from the skies. Lin Feng looked up into the skies and saw a group of pterosaurs flapping their wings as they flew over quickly. When he caught sight of those pterosaurs, Lin Feng's face was filled with astonishment. Seemed like there should be quite a number of dragons in this place. Lin Feng headed deeper in. In a short period of time, he saw more than 10 dragons. There were all kinds of dragons, but other than the pterosaurs, the rest of the dragons did not have wings. They were all creatures that looked like earth dragons, but not earth dragons. The dragons here look so much like earth dragons, but they aren't earth dragons. How strange. I wonder what race these dragons are. Lin Fan couldn't help but mutter to himself. It's the dragon race. A voice suddenly, Lin Feng's voice, Lin Feng's heart. Demon Lord. It was the Demon Lord's voice. Yao Jun had been constantly in closed-door cultivation, so there hadn't been any movement from him. Now, Yao Jun had finally emerged from his closed-door cultivation. This time, Yao Jun's seclusion was very important. Lin Feng guessed that Yao Jun had obtained incredible benefits during his seclusion. His cultivation level had definitely increased. Lin Feng said excitedly. Lin Feng then asked, "You said that these dragons are the dragon race from the prehistoric era. Didn't you say that the dragon race was extinct?" Prehistoric. This was an extremely ancient era. It was probably one of the top 10 great eras in this epoch. This was the era when sentient life forms were born one after another. More and more powerful creatures appeared in the world. Of course, many terrifying races appeared in this era as well. The dragon race was one of them. The dragon race from the prehistoric era possessed supreme divine abilities. It was rumored that the ancestors of the eastern and western dragon branches had once followed the dragon race and cultivated the divine abilities of the dragon race. But later, the dragon race from the prehistoric era died out. However, the eastern and western dragon branches continued to exist until now. The Demon Lord actually said that these dragons that looked like earth dragons were the dragon race from the prehistoric era. Lin Feng found this to be inconceivable. The Demon Lord said, "It's true that the dragon race from the prehistoric era has died out. However, in some special barriers, there might still be dragons from the prehistoric era. For example, this island should be enveloped by a huge barrier. Normally, this island would not be able to manifest itself. Only during special occasions will it be able to manifest itself." Lin Feng nodded and said, "Is there any relationship between the dragon race and the earth dragon race from the prehistoric era? These two types of dragons are really similar in appearance." The Demon Lord said, "The earth dragons have the bloodline of the dragon race from the prehistoric era. However, the bloodline inherited by the earth dragons is not strong. Therefore, they can no longer be considered a true dragon race from the prehistoric era. The dragon race from the prehistoric era was really terrifying. They had mastered many divine abilities of the dragon race. Many divine abilities could reach the heaven and earth and move the stars. It was amazing. In fact, in the beginning of the era, not only the Eastern and Western dragon experts went to the dragon race to learn divine abilities, but other races and even innate spirits also went to the dragon race to learn divine abilities. Lin Feng could not help but be speechless. The dragon race from the prehistoric era was really awesome. How did such a terrifying race perish? Lin Feng asked, puzzled. There are no records of how they perished, but I guess it has something to do with the dragon race being too powerful. The Demon Lord said. Lin Feng pondered for a moment and soon understood the meaning of the Demon Lord's words. The dragon race from the prehistoric era was too powerful. It would definitely arouse the envy and jealousy of many forces. Even those forces who sought divine abilities from the dragon race from the prehistoric era would be envious and jealous of the dragon race. The human heart was often like this. The so-called kindness was nothing in the face of benefits, other than the envy and jealousy of the various major forces. In the beginning of the era, the creatures of the mastermind's world and the races that transcended the era probably did not want to see a race like the dragon race continue to grow stronger. Therefore, the tragedy that happened later happened. The dragon race from the prehistoric era was exterminated. In the beginning of the era, the most glorious and powerful race. Just like that, they were buried by history. It had to be said that this was an extremely sad thing. However, the dragon race from the prehistoric era on the island in front of them had avoided a calamity. The demon lord continued, "I guess that this island is still a little strange. The dragon race from the prehistoric era should have paid a price to avoid a calamity. However, I do not know what price they paid for the time being." Roar, roar, roar at this moment. The roar resounded through the sky. Then, the earth began to shake violently. In the sky, a large number of pterosaurs flew out. In the forest, a large number of dragon race from the prehistoric era also ran towards the periphery of the island. Are they trying to leave this island? Lin Feng could not help but say, "That's very likely the case." The demon lord nodded. The dragon race from the prehistoric era had been trapped here for too long. Now that these dragon race creatures saw the hope of leaving, they were naturally incomparably excited. "Let's follow them and take a look," the demon lord said. Lin Feng nodded and followed behind the group of dragons. Although he did not know why the demon lord wanted to see these prehistoric dragon race leave Dragon Island. However, Lin Feng would not reject the demon lord's suggestion. Moreover, he also wanted to see the scene of the dragons leaving Dragon Island in groups. Chapter 4840. Lin Feng saw many cultivators hiding in the forest. When the dragons rushed over, those cultivators all dodged the rampaging dragons. Many people were attracted by the dragons, and then they followed behind the dragons and rushed out. Could we have arrived at the dragon world? I think there might be such a possibility. Where is the dragon world? I want to return to the undying realm. If we go back the way we came, can we still return to the undying realm? That's hard to say. After all, that area is a place where time and space intersect. Many cultivators began to discuss. In fact, Lin Feng felt that this was not the dragon world. This should still be the undying realm, an island in the depths of the white fog world. The reason why this place gave people the feeling of the dragon world, it was because this place a large number of prehistoric dragons appeared, causing people to think that they had passed through the area covered by the space-time energy outside and arrived at the dragon world. Of course, Lin Feng could have guessed wrong. After all, he had not confirmed this. However, Lin Feng was still quite confident in his guess. When he arrived at the outer area of the island, Lin Feng discovered that a large number of prehistoric dragons had already gathered here. All kinds of prehistoric dragons gathered together. The scene was too shocking. Rumble, lightning intertwined, as dense lightning fell from the sky. Heavy rain poured down. In the sea, huge waves rolled up. Roar. One by one, the pterosaurs let out a high-pitched dragon roar. Then, those pterosaurs flapped their wings and quickly rushed out. The pterosaurs' speed was too fast. They wanted to pass through the lightning area and then rush out of the area covered by the space-time energy. In this way, they would be able to be free. Crash! But at this moment, huge waves swept through the world. Then a huge creature rushed out from the sea. Only half of that huge creature's body was exposed, but it was already huge enough. That half of its body was more than 1,000 meters long. It was also a living being of the dragon clan, but it was a living being of the dragon clan that lived in the sea. That dragon creature's body was covered in very thick scales. Moreover, it had huge claws like a crocodile, and its head was also a little like a crocodile. Is it a crocodile? A cultivator said. He felt that the creature might be the legendary dragon crocodile, a race that had disappeared a long time ago. No, that creature isn't a dragon crocodile. It's the legendary Mosasaurus, An old cultivator said. He seemed to have some understanding of the dragon race and pointed out the origin of the sea dragon. Sea dragon, prehistoric times, the absolute overlord of the sea. The sea dragon was a kind of dragon that had mutated from a cliff. After the mutation was completed, the Mosasaurus entered the sea to live. In fact, when the sea dragon entered the sea area, many powerful creatures had already appeared in the world of the sea. This included many powerful prehistoric sea dragons. However, the sea dragons, a race that appeared later, rose quickly and dominated the ocean world in a short period of time. Let the other overlords of the ocean die quickly. At the end of the prehistoric era, there was only one kind of overlord in the ocean world. That was the sea dragon. As for the other overlords, they had long become food for the Mosasaurus. No wonder the sea dragon was so powerful. It was because its body was too big. It was unknown how much power such a huge body contained. Therefore, this sea dragon was simply an invincible existence. Crack! After the sea dragon's bloody mouth closed, more than a dozen pterosaurs were instantly swallowed by the sea dragon. After seeing this scene, many people's faces turned pale with horror. Those pterosaurs were also very powerful, but in front of the sea dragon, they were vulnerable. They were only worthy of becoming the sea dragon's food. After swallowing more than a dozen pterosaurs, the sea dragon disappeared. Huff, huff, huff. Many people felt that their breathing had become rapid. The shock that the sea dragon brought to everyone was too shocking. Even the pterosaurs didn't have the ability to fight back under the sea dragon's attack. What if the cultivators were attacked by the sea dragon? Wouldn't they die without a doubt? The only fortunate thing was that there didn't seem to be many sea dragons in the sea, because at this stage, everyone had only seen one sea dragon. Except for the previous one, they didn't see a second one. But at this moment, a very terrifying scene happened. When the pterosaurs rushed to the area where the power of time and space lingered, they tried to pass through that area. The pterosaurs' bodies directly exploded. After seeing this scene, everyone's faces couldn't help but change slightly. What was going on? Why were those pterosaurs dying one after another? That area was very strange, as if there was an invisible force shrouding that area. However, the large number of pterosaurs' deaths didn't scare off the other dragons. Many dragons rushed into the sea. Then they swam to the depths. This was indeed a shocking scene. Those dragons couldn't fly, so they could only choose to swim to the area covered by the power of time and space. It was a little funny, but all of this was real. Lin Feng said, "Demon Lord, didn't they say that the prehistoric dragons had incomparably terrifying magic? Why can't these prehistoric dragons fly?" The Demon Lord said, "This may be the price that the prehistoric dragons paid. They escaped the prehistoric catastrophe, but they lost the ability to fly." Hearing this, Lin Feng's face changed slightly. Perhaps there was really such a possibility. Those prehistoric dragons were very fast even in the sea. Lin Feng had originally heard a saying. It was said that the earliest dragons evolved from the fierce beasts in the sea. Therefore, the dragons were born with the ability to swim. It seemed that this saying was quite reliable. A large number of dragons rushed to the area covered by the power of time and space. They really yearned for the outside world too much. However, when those dragons arrived at the area covered by the power of time and space, their bodies directly exploded, just like the pterosaurs before. The densely packed dragon tribe had all fallen. It was really too tragic. The blood of the dragons dyed the sea red. Even the dragons can't go out. Will we be trapped in this place and die? A cultivator said in horror. Many people's faces changed drastically. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. The situation in front of him was indeed very worrying. If they were trapped here, It would be troublesome. They would probably never be able to go out again. Chapter 48:41. Roar. A loud dragon. Roar could be heard from within the island. When they heard the loud dragon roar, the prehistoric dragons began to retreat. Dragon King, it must be the Dragon King. The Dragon King gave the order for them to retreat quickly. A cultivator said. Many people were shocked. There was actually a Dragon King in this place. The Dragon King ruled over the dragons. It seemed that this island was definitely more complicated than they had imagined. Let's go quickly. The dragons are returning to Dragon Island. If they see us, it will be troublesome, a cultivator said. Next, a large number of cultivators. They gathered together and headed towards the inner part of the island. Not long after, the dragons rushed out from the sea and entered the forest. Swoosh, swoosh. Light flashed, and some cultivators flew out from the void. They were actually cultivators who had been transported by the space-time ability. As soon as these cultivators arrived on Dragon Island, they encountered the dragons. Before many cultivators could even react to what was going on, they had already been devoured by the giant dragon in one gulp. How sad. Yi Fuqian sighed. Lin Feng could not help but mutter. He mourned for those cultivators who had just appeared and died tragically. Why did they have to enter Dragon Island earlier or later? They had to wait for the dragons to return to Dragon Island. They were really unlucky. Sometimes when bad luck came, it was really unstoppable. Especially in the world of cultivators, if bad luck came, cultivators might lose their lives. I wonder where Wu Liang Daoist, Du Zhu, and the rest were transported to. This island seems a little too big. Lin Feng stood on a 100-meter-tall tree and looked into the distance. The island, he could not see the end of it. It was not an easy task to find Wu Liang Daoist, Du Zhu, and the rest here. Moreover, Lin Feng realized that after arriving here, his divine consciousness and magic power were greatly suppressed. The deeper he went, the greater the suppression. This island clearly had its own rules. This made Lin Feng feel helpless. However, Lin Feng felt relieved when he thought about how the others seemed to be in the same situation. Even if his dermic powers were completely sealed, Lin Feng believed that with his own physical body, he would still be able to sweep across all directions. The group of dragons once again entered the forest. Lin Feng looked for a place to rest. In the dead of night, the dragons didn't come out at night because the dragons like to be active during the day. I, Long Outyen, am going to soar. Late at night, Lin Feng heard a loud laugh. Long Outyen? This guy actually appeared here. Lin Feng woke up with a start. He opened his eyes and couldn't help but mutter. Long Outyen had been imprisoned in a stone orb back then. When he obtained the stone orb, he originally thought that it was a treasure. Who would have thought that after the stone orb cracked, Long Outyen would be born? This bastard actually wanted to devour him. However, his divine power was devoured by the mysterious woman in the demonic bead. His cultivation base plummeted. Later on, as time passed, Long Outyen's strength slowly recovered. After that, Long Outyen went to the great sage world. It was said that this guy wanted to take in a few saintesses of the myriad races as his maids. He angered the myriad races. He was hunted down by the myriad races. Then he fled. Since then, there had been no trace of him. Now, Long Outyen had actually appeared here. This really surprised Lin Feng. As the saying goes, good people don't live long, but disasters live for 1,000 years. Long Outyen, this bastard, has indeed proven this saying. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Lin Feng wanted to see what kind of opportunity Long Outyen had obtained. He flew in the direction of the voice. From afar, Lin Feng saw an Eastern divine dragon that was hundreds of meters long flying in his direction. Who else could it be other than Long Outyen? However, at that moment, a huge claw that covered the sky emerged from the forest. It was a dragon claw. Lin Feng saw how huge the existence was. It was a huge dragon that was 10,000 meters tall. T-Rex! It was actually a T-Rex. Lin Feng was shocked. Wasn't this T-Rex's body too big? No. To be precise, this wasn't a T-Rex. It was a prehistoric T-Rex. An ordinary T-Rex wouldn't have such a huge body. Only a prehistoric T-Rex would have such a huge body. The huge claw slammed into Long Outyen's body and sent him flying. Long Outyen's huge body directly knocked down a large number of trees. F***ck, so sick, Long Outyen wailed. He turned into his human form and wanted to escape. Previously, this guy was very proud. But now, he even had the heart to cry. The prehistoric T-Rex was too powerful and didn't give Long Outyen a chance to escape. The prehistoric T-Rex's huge claw slapped Long Outyen's body again. This time, Long Outyen suffered even more damage. He was sent flying once again. Wah! In midair, Long Outyen began to vomit blood. After suffering this terrifying attack, Long Outyen felt that his body didn't belong to him anymore. I'm too pitiful. I'm really too pitiful. I shouldn't have gotten carried away. Big brother, uncle, Grandpa Violent Dragon, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please spare my life. Grandpa Violent Dragon. Long Outyen loudly begged for mercy, snot and tears running down his face. That appearance was as miserable as it could be, as pitiful as it could be. As expected, it's still the Long Outyen I know. Seeing Long Outyen's shameless begging for mercy, Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Long Outyen was like this. Therefore, Lin Feng was already used to it. However, Long Outyen's begging was useless. The prehistoric T-Rex didn't let Long Outyen go just because he begged for mercy. The prehistoric T-Rex's huge claw slammed towards Long Outyen again. He wanted to slap Long Outyen to death with one claw. At this time, in the darkness, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Sunshot Divine, Arrow. It was as if it had turned into an eternal light, shooting towards the prehistoric T-Rex. Sunshot Divine, Arrow. Long Outyen cried out in alarm. The prehistoric T-Rex's claw that was about to slap Long Outyen quickly retracted. Then it slapped towards the Sunshot Divine Arrow. The huge claw slapped onto the Sunshot Divine Arrow and immediately sent the Sunshot Divine Arrow flying. Long Outyen seized this opportunity and quickly flew towards Lin Feng. The Sunshot Divine Arrow was summoned back by Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't dare to hesitate and rushed into the distance with Long Outyen. Roar! The prehistoric T-Rex let out an incomparably angry roar. It quickly chased after Lin Feng and Long Outyen as the prehistoric T-Rex ran. Chapter 48-42 F***ck. It's the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus. Run! Many cultivators saw the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus running through the forest. They could not help but scream in fear. The prehistoric Tyrannosaurus was just too terrifying. Anyone who saw the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus would be terrified. No one was willing to face such a terrifying existence. After running for a while, they realized that the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus did not seem to be interested in them. Therefore, the cultivators stopped. The cultivators looked around and saw the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus chasing after two cultivators. Did those two unlucky bastards offend the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus? Someone muttered, "How sad. They've angered the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus. They're most likely going to die." Someone said, "Naturally, They did not think that Lin Feng and Long Outyin could escape from the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus. The prehistoric Tyrannosaurus was just too powerful. Even if some ordinary true immortals were to come, they would not be a match for the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus. Facing such a powerful existence, ordinary cultivators would die without a doubt. Only those true immortals might be able to escape from the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus pursuit. Lin Feng looked too young, and Long Outyin seemed to be injured. How could such a combination survive the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus pursuit? Lin Feng naturally did not know what the cultivators around him were thinking. Now that he was being targeted by the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus, the situation was really bad. Long Outyin said, "Little Lin Feng, you're really loyal. Today, I'm so touched that I'm crying." Of course, Lin Feng did not believe Long Outyin's nonsense. Lin Feng said, "I'm really touched. Share what you got with me later." Hearing Lin Feng's words, Long Outyin's mouth twitched violently. He said, "I didn't get anything. I don't know what you're talking about." Lin Feng said speechlessly, "If you didn't get anything, would the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus chase after you? I think I should suppress you now and throw you to the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus. Then I can escape." Long Outyin howled, "How can you treat your old friend like this?" Lin Feng said, "Aren't you embarrassed to take all the good stuff for yourself? You have to know how to share, okay?" "You win." Long Outyin gritted his teeth. "Does that mean you agree?" Lin Feng asked. "Yes, but let's get out of here first. If the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus catches up to us, we'll all become its snacks." Long Outyin said, "This guy was injured by the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex, and his injuries were quite serious. Therefore, his current speed wasn't particularly fast either. He wanted to escape from the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus. He needed Lin Feng's help. Don't worry. Although the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex is powerful in terms of speed, it's still miles away from me," Lin Feng said confidently. Long Outyin said with a sad face, "Big brother, can you stop bragging? The prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex is about to catch up." At this moment, the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex was indeed quite close to Lin Feng and Long Outyin. There was still more than 1,000 meters left. Such a close distance was naturally nothing to the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex. It would be able to catch up very quickly. At this moment, Lin Feng grabbed Long Outyin's shoulder and used the supreme ability, the 8 Worlds. When this ability was used, Lin Feng's speed increased greatly. It was as if there were 8 small worlds under his feet. Soon, the distance between Lin Feng and the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex was getting further and further away. Roar, roar, roar. The prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex behind them roared angrily. Seeing that Lin Feng was about to break away from it with Long Outyin, the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex was naturally infuriated. However, the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex couldn't catch up to Lin Feng and Long Outyin. After all, speed was indeed a big disadvantage of the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex. They escaped for dozens of miles. Only then did Lin Feng stop. He looked at Long Outyin and said, "Hurry up and take out the treasure that you obtained. Let me see what it is." "Treasure? What treasure?" Long Outyin had a puzzled expression. Obviously, this guy was pretending to be stupid. It was obvious that he wanted to go back on his word. Seeing Long Outyin's appearance, Lin Feng really had the urge to beat him into a pig's head. "Long Outyin, don't challenge my patience," Lin Feng said. Long Outyin said, "Brother, look at what you're saying. When did I challenge your patience? It's just that I don't quite understand what you meant by what you said just now." Lin Feng said, "If that's the case, I can only let you have a taste of a fist that's bigger than a sandbag." With that, Lin Feng directly rushed towards Long Outyin. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Even if I'm injured right now, it's still as easy as flipping my hand to take care of you. Long Outyin was not afraid of Lin Feng at all. Instead, he was very arrogant. The next moment, Lin Feng and Long Outyin started fighting. Lin Feng showed off his invincible might. One punch after another landed on Long Outyin's body. Long Outyin could not withstand Lin Feng's powerful attacks at all. Ouch, it hurts. Ouch, I was wrong. Ouch, I won't act tough anymore. Ouch, spare me. Ouch, my brother, please spare me. Long Outyin's screams could be heard one after another. This guy failed to act tough and was beaten up instead. Lin Feng did not show mercy to Long Outyin. He was very ruthless. Long Outyin was so frustrated that he wanted to die. In the past, Lin Feng was nothing in his eyes. Now, he could not even defeat Lin Feng. This made Long Outyin extremely frustrated. Don't you think it's too late for you to start begging for mercy now? Don't you think it's too late? Lin Feng said as he beat Long Outyin up. Long Outyin was tough and could not be beaten to death. Lin Feng had tried to burn him to death with heavenly fire, but he had failed. If you keep hitting me, I'll really die. I'll take out the treasure. Stop hitting me, Long Outyin shouted. Lin Feng stopped when he heard that. He said, hurry up and take it out. Stop wasting my time. Long Outyin mumbled, this is so depressing. Back in the day, I was such a terrifying existence. If I wasn't sealed by someone and had my divine power devoured by the woman in the demonic orb, do you think you could be my match? Lin Feng kicked Long Outyin and scolded, what's the point of saying all these useless things? No matter how awesome you were in the past, that's all in the past. If you don't take out the treasure, I'll beat you up again. Long Outyin shrunk his neck and reluctantly took out an item. Chapter 48-43. It was a dragon egg. There were all sorts of runes on the dragon egg. Lin Feng guessed that dragon egg should be the dragon egg of the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex. Long Outyin actually stole the dragon egg of the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex. No wonder the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex was so angry. It was not easy for the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex to lay a dragon egg. It was even more difficult to hatch a dragon egg. So, the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex had always attached great importance to the inheritance of their descendants. Who would dare to have any ideas about the prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex's descendants? That was simply courting death. However, Long Outyin had done exactly that. Long Outyin said, I risked my life to get this dragon egg. You don't want to snatch the dragon egg from me, do you? Do you have the heart to do that? Lin Feng was speechless. This guy was pretending to be pitiful in front of him again. However, just as Long Outyin said, he really did not want to snatch the dragon egg that Long Outyin had obtained. After all, they were old acquaintances. Although they weren't good friends, they were still old acquaintances. Moreover, the current Lin Feng did not have that much energy to nurture a young dragon, and it was hard to say if it could hatch a young dragon. Keep the dragon egg yourself. Lin Feng said, hee, brother, you're still the kind-hearted one. Long Outyin said with a smile. This guy happily kept the dragon egg. However, at this time, Lin Feng realized that something was wrong. Previously, Long Outyin had said that he was going to be rich. Naturally, he would not speak without thinking. However, with just a dragon egg, how could Long Outyin become rich? In other words, Long Outyin lied to him. After thinking about it, Lin Feng's face darkened. Long Outyin actually lied to him. Long Outyin, do you have anything else that you haven't taken out? Lin Feng looked at Long Outyin and asked. Long Outyin was shocked, but his expression quickly returned to normal. He said, no, what else do I have that I haven't taken out? I only got this dragon egg. Didn't I show it to you just now? You don't suspect that I'm hiding other treasures, do you? I, Long Outyen, am a gentleman. I would never do such a thing. Long Outyen spoke with a righteous look on his face. Those who were not familiar with Long Outyen's character might have been fooled by Long Outyen. However, Long Outyen wanted to deceive Lin Feng. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Lin Feng was not going to fall for Long Outyen's trick. Lin Feng did not waste time talking to Long Outyen. He went up and started punching and kicking him. Ouch, it hurts. Ouch, spare my life. Ouch, why did you hit me? I know I was wrong. Long Outyen screamed again and again. Lin Feng said, if you know you're wrong, then quickly take it out. Long Outyen did not take it out. Instead, he said gloomily, other old friends will cry when they meet, but you're punching and kicking your old friend. Lin Feng, I misjudged you. Lin Feng pursed his lips and said, back then I was almost eaten by you. You should be thankful that I didn't kill you. What's wrong with beating you up to vent my anger? I think I've been magnanimous enough to you. Long Outyen said, you're bringing up old scores. How many years has it been? A gentleman does not hold grudges against the past. Why do you still remember old grudges? Lin Feng said, I'm not a gentleman. Isn't it normal to hold grudges? How many true gentlemen were there among the billions of living beings in the myriad of worlds and realms? How many people cannot hold grudges? Bang, bang, bang. As soon as he finished speaking, another round of punches and kicks. Long Outyen's face was bruised and swollen. Long Outyen was miserable. I'm going to die. I'm really going to be beaten to death. I'll take it out for you to see. Long Outyen finally could not take it anymore. In the end, he gave in and decided to take out the item. Long Outyen had always been a despicable person. If you spoke to him seriously, he would be full of nonsense. There was no truth in his words. He could fool you until you lost your sense of direction. Therefore, to deal with a despicable person like Long Outyen, there was only one way. That was to use a pair of iron fists to beat him until he was obedient. After all, Long Outyen's body was very tough. There was no need to worry about beating him to death. Lin Feng stopped. Who would have thought that Long Outyen would turn and run? Lin Feng had been guarding against Long Outyen. He knew that Long Outyen might run away. Therefore, when Long Outyen turned and ran, Lin Feng immediately used a spatial technique to lock down the void. Long Outyen's speed was greatly reduced. Kick divine skill. Lin Feng leaped and kicked at Long Outyen. No! Long Outyen screamed in horror. Bang! The next moment, that powerful kick ruthlessly landed on Long Outyen's body. Long Outyen was sent flying by Lin Feng's kick. This guy broke more than 10 trees and fell into the forest. Lin Feng rushed over and said, Long Outyen, you really need to be taught a lesson. Long Outyen was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He smiled apologetically and said, I'll take it out. Schwa. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 items appeared in Long Outyen's hands. The first item was a crystal stone. It was surrounded by the power of time and space. It was unknown what it was. The second item was a yellow stone. Lin Feng also did not know what the second item was. But obviously, these 2 items should be extremely precious. Lin Feng asked, What are these? Long Outyen said, This crystal stone is called the Holy Dragon's Crystal. It is said to be a crystal stone left behind by a holy dragon after he fell. It records the legacy of the dragon clan and is extremely important to the cultivators of the dragon clan. Other than the legacy of the dragon clan, it also records his life's cultivation comprehension. When I was at my peak, I, Long Outyen, was at the Sage-to-Be realm I was only one step away from entering the sage realm, but I was unable to break through. Hearing Long Out Yin's words, Lin Feng could not help but reveal an extremely shocked expression. Long Out Yin, this sloppy guy, was actually in existence at the Sage-to-Be realm when he was at his peak. This was truly inconceivable. However, the current Long Out Yin was far from his peak. Of course, to be honest, Long Out Yin's recovery was not bad. He was probably at the virtual immortal realm. Although the virtual immortal realm was the lowest level of the true immortal realm, it was still a true immortal. If Long Out Yin was not injured, Lin Feng would not be Long Out Yin's match with his combat strength. Chapter 48-44. Of the two treasures, the first treasure was extremely important to Long Out Yin, so Lin Feng would not take it. Of course, Lin Feng was not particularly interested in the first treasure. Lin Feng was more interested in the second treasure. It was the earth yellow rock. When Lin Feng saw the yellow rock, he felt that it was extraordinary. Perhaps it was a treasure that was very important to him. Lin Feng pointed at the yellow rock and asked, "What is that?" Long Out Yin said, "It's called the Yellow Earth Immortal Rock. It's a type of rock that was formed when yellow earth was fused with an immortal rock. It's extremely rare, even in the early days of the era. It's the most powerful material for refining weapons." Lin Feng's face lit up when he heard that. Of Lin Feng's two natal magic treasures, the Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp was still an emperor weapon. It was still one step away from evolving into a void, immortal magic treasure. However, it was much harder for these magic treasures to evolve than for cultivators. Moreover, Lin Feng's Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp was such a powerful magic treasure. It was even more difficult for it to evolve. Therefore, there was only one way for the Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp to evolve. It was to find a powerful material to fuse with it. However, such a material was extremely difficult to find. It depended on whether one was lucky enough to find it. Lin Feng felt that he was quite lucky to have found the Yellow Earth Immortal Rock. If he could smelt the Yellow Earth Immortal Rock and fuse it with the Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp, when the time came, could the Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp evolve into a void immortal magic treasure? A void immortal magic treasure was still an immortal magic treasure. Its power would definitely increase tremendously. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. As for Lin Feng's other natal magic treasure, the Primal Chaos Stone, it was almost at the level of an emperor weapon. However, the Primal Chaos Stone was a little special. The Primal Chaos Stone was made by Lin Feng using Primal Chaos Immortal Rock. Therefore, it could not be fused with other materials. This would destroy the Primal Chaos Stone's structure. If that happened, the Primal Chaos Stone would be destroyed. Therefore, there were only two ways to evolve the Primal Chaos Stone. The first type, through Lin Feng's long-term refinement, the Chaos Stone could complete its evolution. However, this method clearly couldn't be completed overnight. It required the accumulation of time. The second type, Lin Feng found other Primal Chaos Celestial Stones and refined them into Primal Chaos Stones. Then, Lin Feng's Primal Chaos Celestial Stones would be able to evolve. However, Lin Feng was well aware of just how difficult it was to find the Chaos Immortal Stones. Lin Feng looked at the Yellow Earth Immortal Rock in Long Out Yin's hand. Then a smile appeared on his face. Long Out Yin mumbled to himself. He felt that Lin Feng's smile made him uneasy. Lin Feng looked at Long Out Yin and said, "I want the Yellow Earth Immortal Stone." Long Out Yin said, "This is a treasure that I risked my life to obtain. If you want the Yellow Earth Immortal Stone, there's no problem. However, you'll have to exchange it with other treasures." Lin Feng said speechlessly, "Exchange my ass. If I didn't save you just now, you would have lost your life." This yellow earth immortal stone is my reward for saving your life." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng snatched the yellow earth immortal stone back. Long Outyen was furious. He had always been the one who snatched other people's treasures. When had he, Long Outyen's treasure, ever been snatched away by others? However, now he knew that the yellow earth immortal stone had been snatched away by Lin Feng. This made Long Outyen extremely angry. He couldn't wait to beat Lin Feng up. Endure, endure, endure. A little impatience spoils great plans. Wait until I recover. Wait and see how I deal with this kid. When the time comes, I'll definitely make this kid pay for my loss tenfold. Long Outyen comforted himself in his heart. After comforting himself, Long Outyen instantly felt much better. Long Outyen said, "Let's find a place to cultivate in seclusion. You can refine your treasure while I recover my cultivation." Lin Feng said, "Let's go our separate ways." Lin Feng chose a direction and quickly flew over. Long Outyen said, "Don't. Why do we have to go our separate ways? We're brothers who have risked our lives together and explored dangers together. Of course, we have to stay together." Long Outyen was extremely thick-skinned. He quickly chased after Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't be bothered with Long Outyen. He just let him follow beside him. Soon after, Lin Feng found a place to cultivate in seclusion. The place Lin Feng chose to practice his cultivation was a dry cave. The cave was very big. Lin Feng sealed the cave with a seal. Long Outyen found a place to heal his injuries, while Lin Feng took out the chaotic ancient lamp and the yellow earth immortal stone. He began to smelt the yellow earth immortal stone. Under Lin Feng's smelting, the yellow earth immortal stone gradually melted. Then, the melted yellow earth immortal stone was all refined by Lin Feng into the chaotic ancient lamp. The chaotic ancient lamp's aura was constantly rising. About an hour later, all the yellow earth immortal stone was successfully integrated into the chaotic ancient lamp. There were waves of violent fluctuations coming from the chaotic ancient lamp. Then, a large amount of immortal light surged out and surrounded the chaotic ancient lamp. Seeing this, Lin Feng's face lit up with joy. It seemed that the chaotic ancient lamp was about to complete its transformation. This transformation was naturally delightful. Next, he just had to wait for the chaotic ancient lamp to complete its transformation. Time passed quickly. The transformation of the chaotic ancient lamp took longer than Lin Feng expected. It took 3 full days for the primal chaos ancient lamp to complete its transformation. After the transformation, many mysterious runes appeared on the chaotic ancient lamp. Those runes all contained extraordinary power. They were immortal Tao runes. The immortal Tao runes formed by the chaotic ancient lamp proved that the chaotic ancient lamp had completed its transformation. From an emperor weapon, it had transformed into an immortal Tao weapon. Lin Feng held the chaotic ancient lamp in his hand and carefully sensed the powerful energy contained within it. His face lit up with joy. The chaotic ancient lamp contained a lot more power than Lin Feng had expected. This made Lin Feng extremely happy. The chaotic ancient lamp had completed its transformation. Next, it would continue to transform into a true immortal Tao weapon. After that, it would be a sage weapon or even an existence that surpassed sage weapons. At this time, Long Outyen also came out of seclusion. He had completely recovered to his peak state. After Lin Feng and Long Outyen left the cave, Long Outyen's body suddenly emitted a terrifying aura. That terrifying qi was moving towards Lin Feng to envelop him. Long Outyen, what is the meaning of this? Chapter 48-45. What do you think I'm doing? I just want to beat you up. Long Outyen looked at Lin Feng angrily. His eyes were as sharp as they could be. He could not wait to step on Lin Feng. Long Out Yen had been beaten up badly by Lin Feng. Now that Long Out Yen had recovered, he wanted to take revenge. Lin Feng said, "I beat you up for your own good. Do you know what it means to have good intentions? I beat you up in order to establish your correct outlook on life and values." Long Out Yen was furious when he heard Lin Feng's words. He had been beaten up so badly. Now, Lin Feng had the nerve to say that he beat him up for his own good. This made Long Out Yen gnash his teeth in anger. "Kid, take my fist." Long Out Yen yelled and punched out with his sacred dragon fist. Behind him, a dragon shadow immediately condensed. The dragon shadow merged with the fist and charged towards Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng was prepared. He easily dodged Long Out Yen's powerful punch. Lin Feng said, "Long Out Yen, if you want to fight, I can play with you. However, don't blame me if I hit you too hard." Long Out Yen curled his lips and said, "Kid, can you stop bragging? The sky is about to be broken by your boasting. Previously, I couldn't beat you because I was injured. Now that I've fully recovered, my fighting strength has skyrocketed. Dealing with you is as easy as flipping my hand." Long Out Yen was full of confidence. It was no wonder that Long Out Yen was so confident. After all, Long Out Yen's cultivation was strong. Long Out Yen charged towards Lin Feng again. Lin Feng waved his hand. The two evil god stone statues flew out. Lin Feng and the two evil god stone statues worked together to attack Long Out Yen. After more than 10 rounds, Long Out Yen was defeated by Lin Feng and the two evil god stone statues. Bang, bang, bang. Next, another tragic group brawl took place. Why is this happening? Ouch, it hurts. Stop hitting me. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Big Brother Lin Feng, spare my life. Lord Lin Feng, spare my life. Grandpa Lin Feng, have mercy. Long Out Yen's screams sounded extremely pitiful. However, Lin Feng did not let Long Out Yen go just because he begged for mercy. 15 minutes later, Lin Feng felt a little tired. Only then did he stop. Long Out Yen was wailing. In reality, Long Out Yen's physical body was too strong. Therefore, he was not injured at all. Moreover, Lin Feng had a sense of propriety. It wouldn't hurt Long Out Yen. Lin Feng put away the two evil god statues. Long Out Yen got up from the ground and said with a grimace, "You won unfairly." Lin Feng said, "Magic treasures are also a part of a cultivator's cultivation. The two evil god stone statues are my magic treasures. Since that's the case, how can you say that I won unfairly?" When Long Out Yen heard Lin Feng's words, he naturally agreed. However, he felt a little aggrieved in his heart. Long Out Yen said, "How hateful! If Lord Long Out Yen still had my previous strength, I would be able to trample you under my feet today. I would be able to do whatever I want to you." Lin Feng pursed his lips and said, "Forget it. A person should live in the present and not in the past. So you should think about how to raise your cultivation." Speaking of the matter of increasing one's cultivation, Long Out Yen, on the other hand, looked very confident. He said, "Don't worry, I have been reborn. Moreover, I have a deeper understanding of the true meaning of life. So, in the near future, I will definitely be able to break through my shackles. I will become a true immortal. Only by becoming a true immortal could one be considered to have shed their mortal body. Naturally, this was something that everyone dreamed of." Lin Feng said, "Then, continue to work hard." He didn't stop and instead flew deeper into the island. In the depths of the island, from time to time, the roars of beasts and the cries of apes could be heard. On Dragon Island, there were not only dragons, but also many powerful ancient creatures. They were also trapped on Dragon Island. How much do you know about Dragon Island? Lin Feng looked at Long Outyen and asked. Long Outyen said, "It's said that it's a prehistoric island that was sealed by someone with supreme magic power. Otherwise, the prehistoric dragon tribe on this prehistoric island would have been destroyed along with the catastrophe. And on this prehistoric island, the prehistoric dragon emperor is buried. If we can find the prehistoric dragon emperor, that would be a great opportunity. What kind of existence is the dragon emperor?" Lin Feng asked in shock. It is said that the prehistoric dragon emperor was an existence that could compete with the 3 progenitor dragons. Although the prehistoric dragon emperor was not a progenitor dragon, no one dared to underestimate him. There is another legend that states that the prehistoric dragon emperor's battle prowess even surpassed the 3 progenitor dragons. Long Outyen said, "He's that powerful." Lin Feng was shocked. He said, "Aren't the ancestral dragons the most ancient and the strongest of the dragons?" Long Outyen nodded and said, "There is indeed such a saying. However, you should know that the glory created by the predecessors can be broken by the later generations. For example, your ancestor was very powerful. Perhaps one day in the future, your battle prowess will surpass your ancestor." Lin Feng nodded and said, "How did the Dragon Emperor fall?" Long Outyen said, "Rumor has it that the prehistoric Dragon Emperor was injured. In order to seal the Dragon Island and leave behind some bloodline inheritance for the prehistoric dragon tribe, he paid a heavy price. After completing all of this, he finally died." Lin Feng said, "The Dragon Emperor's death was too tragic. I wonder if his bloodline was passed down. If there is, it must be extremely heaven-defying, right?" Long Outyen said mysteriously, "Of course there is. It is said that before the final battle, the prehistoric dragon emperor sealed the baby dragon emperor before it was hatched. Then, he asked someone to bring the baby dragon emperor out." "Oh, such a thing actually happened?" Lin Feng couldn't help but show a surprised expression. Long Outyen nodded and said, "Later on, there was a rumor that the Dragon Emperor's subordinates brought the Dragon Emperor to this island. That's why the Dragon Emperor came to this island after he was severely injured in order to find his son. If that's the case, the Dragon Emperor's only son might be on this island?" Lin Feng said while stroking his chin.